Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Friday, April 10th. We made it all the way to Friday on a very volatile week. One of the best weeks that we have had for the market. People are not going to believe this, but we've had the best 4-day stretch since October 2025. Probably doesn't feel like that because individual stocks have not necessarily have had the best run based on what sector you're in, but this actually was, from Monday to Thursday, the best 4-day stretch for the stock market. 4.5 trillion we've added into the stock market over the past 4 days, which is nice to see. And we got to see if we can wrap it up with a 5th day of some green as we get into it. We've got a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. CPI data is out, and honestly, as important as CPI usually is, it's not that big of a deal. So we're going to go through CPI. We're going to talk about it and kind of discuss the implications on it for the market. It just came out about 10 minutes ago. Pre-markets relatively flat to red. Well, actually, no, S&P just flipped green. I mean, this is what happens when the market prices stuff in. CPI was ugly. We'll talk about it, but it wasn't ugly enough to ignore the ceasefire. The ceasefire talks are starting today, which is something that the market is more happy about. S&P 500 right there, 681. We were up about 0.58% on the day. We were potentially going red yesterday. In the middle of the day, we flipped based on some headlines that we'll talk about, and that led us to go green. Zeta's up a little bit. Micron's up a little bit. IGV, really ugly day for software. We'll talk about if that continues for a second straight day. Broadcom's up. NVIDIA's up. Marvell's up. Credo, Applied Digital. Most of your tech names are getting some green. Iran, Nebius, Tesla, Amazon, which had a phenomenal day. Best day in 3 months for Amazon yesterday, up 5.6%, 233. Hopefully that momentum can continue as we get into the final day of the week. CPI. So what do we get? Well, it wasn't the best, but it also was kind of what we expected. Core was at 2.6 versus 2.7, which, that was at least a beat, at least in terms of the expectations of how bad the street thought it was going to be. And then headline was 3.3 versus 3.4. So last time we were at 2.4, so it's a massive jump on the headline consumer price index, but it's also what the market thought we were going to get. It's the highest level since May of 2024, which is not good because we are going backwards in time. But once again, the market kind of anticipated that the increase from oil throughout the month of March was going to lead to this type of price action. So that's why we're seeing that right here. The energy index was up 10.9% on the month, largest since 2005. So you had a very large level of energy bump going back to 2005. And the gas price index was the highest since 1967. So this was a 21.2% increase in the index for gas, which accounted for nearly 3/4 of all monthly items increase. So 75% of the increase in CPI was led by gas. Gas was up 21% in the month. That's not really sustainable if oil prices go down. Since March, oil prices are down about 10%. So you would imagine April inflation is better. That's what the market's pricing in. But obviously, it was not the best number for March. The shelter index increased in March, rising about 0.3%, which, again, was relatively small compared to the 21% increase in the index for gas. Again, the highest since 1967. So you had a 3.4% or 3.3% print. Street wanted 3.4, came in a little bit better than expected. It was all due to the energy increase. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you're just joining, this is what the headline CPI number looks like, and it's largely based on the energy index. Now, again, the reason the market's not reacting as negatively is because of the ceasefire and the perceived perception of the war ending soon, or at least in the next 2 weeks. JD Vance is in Islamabad right now, beginning negotiations. He gave a couple interviews a few hours ago talking about some of the things he thinks are going to be important in negotiations, but negotiations will be starting either now or in the coming hours. And over the next 2 weeks, we are going to have to see if these negotiations result into anything meaningful. And if they do, we'll be okay. If not, we'll be right back to the choppiness of the red. So that is what we've got going on with CPI. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. S&P 681.17, up a little bit in the pre-market. I'll do the red or green poll and see what people are thinking as we enter into this Friday. It is kind of crazy that it's April 10th already. I feel like April is going by quickly. Then again, I feel like every month has gone pretty quickly for 2026. I mean, in a couple months, we will be in June, which is half the year. And if half the year is done, that's also going to be kind of crazy. Let's do this since we haven't done it in a couple weeks, and we'll do this to kick off our Friday. Put in the comments or in the chat where you are watching from. Where you are watching from as we head into the weekend, and hopefully we get some green to head into the weekend. We'll talk about software. Obviously, Palantir is going to be top of mind today. It's like a pretty nasty slump, 14% over the past 2 days. Hopefully, we get a bit of a reversal today. 125 is a very key level. And, my honest opinion on the stock is I have no idea. We'll talk about kind of the implications of what's happening and why it's happening, but I have no idea what price action could look like today. Unfortunately, your kind of core elements of IGV, ServiceNow down 2% of the pre-market, Salesforce, Adobe, they're down. So IGV is not looking really good, which makes me skeptical that Palantir is going to have a good day. But then again, when the market opens, it's going to be a lot of market participants coming together to decide what they think some of these companies should be worth. S&P 500 again, up 0.18%. Also, Bitcoin hit 72, right? Bitcoin, yeah, we're still at 72. So that risk on momentum in the context of BTC, not the worst thing either. Oh, I said yes or no on the green or red poll. Okay, maybe I should change that. Maybe I should actually type in the poll correctly. That makes sense. Green or red today. All right, that's what we got. Where are we watching from? We got London in the house, Northeast Ohio, England, Sweden, Scotland, Kansas City, Frankfurt, Germany. I love it. Montreal, June in San Diego, Spain, New Orleans. We will talk about Anthropic with J-Pow. That was a crazy headline yesterday. We will get into that. Very confusing, but yeah, that was a hell of a headline. Hawaii, Canada. I love it. Iowa, Belgium, Portugal. I'm not telling you my location. I'm not stupid. That's a fair point. That's actually a good idea. Canada, Boston, Michigan. We got Ice Caveman in Iceland. That's pretty cool. Ice Caveman in Iceland. Steady Mobbin in Rome, Italy. Osaka, Japan. Dude, Japan is obviously one of the most amazing countries on the planet. That is absolutely somewhere I want to go one day. We got Greece, Algeria, Dallas, Colorado, Seoul. Seoul is another place I really want to visit one day. Evan, are you actually in Argentina? Or are you just saying that because Triple V donated Argentinian pesos yesterday? The Gay of Hormuz, I'm still not over that joke yesterday, dude. I'm still not over whoever said if I lead negotiations, the negotiated Strait of Hormuz will be called the Gay of. Like, that was just, it was a good joke. It was a good one. Michigan, Venezuela, Los Angeles, Philippines, Austria, Vienna, Canada, San Francisco, Richmond, Virginia. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's always so cool to see everyone watch from across the world. It's very humbling to see people across the world come together for this. And it's also really cool. We're all here together because we care on a Friday morning or Friday evening about where our stocks are going to go. And if J-Pow is messing with us, like the fact that we all care about these intricate, minute details about the equity markets. It's a sport. It's a sport for us. We all care about how the sport ends up fully playing out. All right, so let's get into it. That is what we have with CPI. Again, if you're just joining, CPI came in at 3.3%. It was worse than expected, or it was worse than February, but it was better than expected in the context of the headline, which was 3.4. We came in at 3.3. Market's not really reacting to it. I kind of had a feeling market's not going to react to it. Ever since the ceasefire, I mean, that was the biggest piece of news. We've added a lot of market cap in the past few days. We're up 8% since the March 30 lows, which so far have signified the bottom. I mean, it kind of feels like it's going to be hard to get back to that bottom unless oil spikes. If oil were to spike, that means the ceasefire negotiations would be going bad. So far, we don't have any evidence that the ceasefire negotiations are going bad because they just started. And I don't think Trump wants them. I think Trump wants the deal. So as long as that's the case, we don't have to go to the moon, but we hopefully don't have to go back down to where we were back on March 30th. All right, let's talk about some of the core headlines that we have today. So again, CPI, one of the most important things, but we've got a bunch of other things going on. Let's start off with some of this AI stuff in regards to TSMC. So TSMC had their March metrics come out. And I mean, once again, it's bullish. March revenue is up 45% year over year, 30% month over month, and 35% year to date. It is quite incredible, the level of momentum that's happening in TSMC. This is why you're seeing, I think, all these other supply chain ecosystem plays in the context of AI start to get a lot more momentum, which we've seen over the past couple of days, whether it's a Marvell, whether it's a Lumentum, Coherent, etc. And SMH has also been doing very well. Obviously, software is not. We'll talk more about software. SMH up another 1% in the pre-market. The TSMC numbers, once again, just make it pretty obvious that NVIDIA is going to put up good numbers. I think we all know NVIDIA is going to put up good numbers. The question is, how good can they be? And if they're better than what even the best expectations are for the broader AI ecosystem, then if the war comes to an end and we're back in action with some real AI strength, I would imagine NVIDIA is probably going to be higher than what it is today, and that's going to lift up AMD, Broadcom, the entire sector, and all the smaller names that are involved in supplying these GPUs. So TSMC numbers, we needed good numbers. We got good numbers. We're not seeing any year-over-year or month-over-month decline. TMC right there, 2.24%. They got an upgrade, by the way, by Athenia Research to $600. I think they recently had 500, and then they got up to 600. And so that's why you're probably seeing a little bit more momentum right here on TSMC is we have in the pre-market. AMD, what do we have right here? AMD is also, wow, AMD 238. Very, very, very nice to see AMD getting some strength and momentum as well. This actually has been one of the best performing stocks since the March 30th rally, which is also, or March 30 lows, which is good to also see this get some more excitement. Just in, the negotiations between the U.S. and Iran and Islamabad may last for 2 to 3 days, and a mystery of the Iranian leader said, yeah, so they have 2 weeks of a ceasefire. I don't think they're literally going to need 2 weeks for the negotiations themselves. But, you know, as long as in 2 to 3 days they can come up with some meaningful type of negotiation, then that would be a good thing. Now, in terms of the negotiations itself, we did get a tweet from Trump last night. We got a lot of tweets from him. He's not really the happiest about a variety of things, but this was the tweet that I think was most relevant in the context of Iran. He said, Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable, some would say, of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That is not the agreement we have. So Trump kind of showing his frustration. There's only been about 5 to 7 ships that have passed over the past couple of days through the Strait of Hormuz. Starmer from the UK was on a phone call with Trump today, and Starmer also put out some messages that we need to do something about what's happening with the Strait of Hormuz. There's about 30 other countries that Starmer is going to be working with as well, and trying to figure out exactly how we can navigate what's happening on the Strait. So at least the NATO countries are trying to come together to make a better understanding of, you know, getting that Strait open. But realistically, unless we have meaningful negotiations, it's not going to open up. And I guess that's Trump's way of negotiation by tweeting what he tweeted last night. So hopefully Saturday, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday is going to be actually really important because, I mean, if they're negotiating over the next 2 to 3 days, we might have an answer by Monday on at least the progression of the talks and how fast we're getting to some type of a conclusion. I would imagine the best type of talk would be the Iranians give up some of their potential nuclear weapons, enrichment program, et cetera, and the U.S. gives them sanction relief, and maybe that's it. You call it a day and the war is over. But, you know, a lack of that news is probably going to lead us to a much more choppy week as we get into the second week of April. Intel, are we green on Intel today again? Yep, Intel's green again. It was up 4.7% yesterday. Had to deal with Google this week. Had to deal with SpaceX this week. Both of those deals came together, gave Intel a $309 billion market cap as of the pre-market. AMD's at 385. It's quite incredible that Intel's caught up this quickly, but it also has the Jensen investment and the Trump investment inside of it, and I think people are just using that as a way to go long on it. ServiceNow still down 1.94%. CoreWeave, they had a big deal with Meta yesterday of $21 billion. They had a new deal today with Anthropic. So the new deal today with Anthropic is that CoreWeave is essentially going to be, Anthropic is going to be renting CoreWeave cloud suppliers, or cloud, it's going to be using CoreWeave's cloud platform for production scale workloads. It's a multi-year agreement. The collaboration is going to begin with a phased infrastructure rollout, and that multi-year agreement will bring compute online starting later this year. So CoreWeave has about $90 billion now in backlogged revenue to go through a variety of different companies, foundation models that are going to be using their GPUs, and it looks like Anthropic is the next one. Obviously, Anthropic continues to say that they cannot have enough compute, and for all the things that they are doing, they're going to need more compute. So whether that comes from CoreWeave or Nebius or Amazon with the Trainium chips that allowed Amazon to get some more momentum yesterday as the chips business got more attention, or Google with the TPUs, obviously NVIDIA with the GPUs. Yeah, it seems like there will continually be more demand. So you had 2 deals over the past couple of days with Anthropic, or with CoreWeave, Anthropic and Meta. You also had $3 billion worth of dilution, which is why the stock isn't really taken off. It did hit 98 at one point, now it's at 93, but at least it's not stuck in that like 68 to 75 level that it was stuck at over the past couple of weeks. So that's what you have on CoreWeave. Nebius had a great day yesterday, obviously differentiating itself as one of the premier Neo Clouds, 136. There's a lot of questions here on, does Nebius fall today? I think if it does fall, you know, and you get an ugly fall, like even a 10% decline, you get right back to 125. Like, it's not, you know, if you were at 125 versus 135, I don't think people are going to care that much. Now, if you get back down to the 100s, which is what happened last time they were at 130, yes, but last time they announced a 4.5 billion senior convertible note. I don't think they're going to do that again. And if they do, it's like, okay, but they just did it 3 weeks ago. So if it was going to have any momentum going down, I think it would be from more macro things versus something the company would do itself. If not, I think it probably tries to at least consolidate here, if not break out against that 141 all-time high, which means, maybe selling calls here is not crazy. But if it's going for price discovery, you probably don't want to sell calls because, maybe there's a world in which it starts to really break out. Oracle right there, down 1% again in the pre-market. CoreWeave increased their offering, really? Okay, how many more billions did they put on it? Well, it's ironic. Nebius did the exact same thing. They did 4 billion and then they increased it to like 4.5 the day after when they realized how much demand was there. I mean, it makes sense. Again, these companies should be doing it, but obviously that is how they're going to continue to get more money to be able to buy all these GPUs. Intel also, yes, that is green. Lumentum, Coherent, SanDisk went crazy yesterday. Lumentum's up 5% pre-market. SanDisk up another 3%. SanDisk was up 9% yesterday. I mean, I know they got an upgrade. It does feel like that move was a bit aggressive. I guess the market is just giga bullish memory again. Micron did not get the same type of move, but Micron right there at 422 up from 380, which is, 320, which is nice to see. But it looks like semis was where kind of the party was yesterday and where the party goes to continue. Amazon. So this is going to be one of the most important stocks to watch today as well. And then we'll talk about what happened with the software sell-off. And the reason for that is because last night, Jassy basically came out and said, look, we are investing like crazy for the future and we are growing like crazy. And, the street might be not really or is underestimating kind of the momentum that we are getting in regards to our AI business, and not just AI revenue in the context of AWS, which is now at 15 billion annually, but the 20 billion annual run rate from their chips business. Jassy also said if our chips business was a standalone business, it would be $50 billion a year. And when you think about that and think about Trainium 2 is sold out, Trainium 3, which are their custom chips, are fully subscribed, Trainium 4 is already reserved. Obviously, it shows that demand is pretty crazy, but also that demand is being exemplified by a company that maybe not a lot of people thought was going to get deep into the chips business. And now they're in that chips business aggressively. So I think the Amazon move was important, but the question is going to be, will Amazon's move be sustainable? This is what the AWS CEO said yesterday in terms of how much momentum they're getting with their Trainium chips.
Run rate. Yeah. How much of that goes back to AWS? And what do you make of the criticism that some of these investments appear to be circular in that you are putting billions of dollars into Anthropic, they are spending billions on your platform? What do you make of that?
Well, from an investment point of view, we see these as great investments. And I think most of that has borne itself out. And you've seen the valuations of these companies go up. And so we like the investments that we make for the investment. We think we wouldn't make investments just for usage of AWS. These are completely separate decisions for us. And the investments we think are allow us to take advantage of some of the upside of us helping them grow their business inside of the enterprise. But we also get great partnerships from them. If you look at Anthropic, they've been growing like crazy, as you mentioned, and the models that all their models that are out today are trained on Trainium. It's our custom chips, and so we've learned a lot from them on how to build better chips, how to build better clusters, how to drive better performance. And now you see the best performance in the world coming from AI models running on top of Trainium, which is fantastic for us.
So I know people are worried that this is a bit circular because you've got Amazon giving Anthropic money, then Anthropic, which they own a big part of Anthropic, then Anthropic used their chips, and then CoreWeave getting backstopped by NVIDIA to sell chips, and then NVIDIA investing in Anthropic, Anthropic using CoreWeave. Like it is a little bit of a circular mess. Not going to lie about it. It's ugly. It probably goes 3 levels deeper in terms of how circular it really is. But if the revenue is created through derivatives of these companies, aka not each other, eventually that is what breaks the circular nature of it. And the question just becomes, does Anthropic have paying customers that are using Anthropic, which is why they're willing to take the investment they get from NVIDIA, which NVIDIA gets an equity stake in, and then give it to a company that NVIDIA has invested in. And that ultimately comes down to the sort of long-term tailwinds and ROI that people assume from AI. And based on the Anthropic numbers, it's hard to imagine that, that's not going to be how the story plays out. I mean, again, 30 billion annual run rate is incredible. I think it's going to be closer to 50 billion by the end of the year if this growth rate even continues 50% of what it currently is. And if it accelerates 50% of what it is, it's going to be closer to 75 billion by the end of the year. That's money that's not coming from NVIDIA or CoreWeave or Amazon or anything. That's money coming from a regular business that wants to pay for Anthropic services, which means Anthropic needs more compute. And bullish for Amazon's tax department. Yeah, very bullish for Amazon's tax department. So, the circular stuff is a critique, but I don't think it's almost like when Burry talked about depreciation of chips. It's like that mattered for like a couple of weeks. And then everyone was like, wait a second, people are getting value from not only the H100s, but the A100s from 6-7 years ago. So why can't it be depreciated over 6-7 years? Why does it have to be something that depreciates over 3 years? Well, the value of the chips still have an ROI for customers that might not be the most important customers in the world, but there are people that are still using it. We're seeing the H100 rental prices go up. So, I mean, these arguments kind of fade into irrelevancy if the companies can continue to grow. And I think that's what we're seeing from Anthropic. In terms of Amazon's dilution, they do have $50 billion that they can throw at the ATM, at the monies. So, I mean, there is a world in which Jassy might end up raising more money by diluting at this level. That could be the bear case for buying Amazon right here. So, I mean, buying into the pump for the long term, I think obviously makes sense. Amazon's probably a much higher stock than what it is today. A lot of people have that $300 target on it, but if Jassy dilutes, this thing's going down. Like, it's inevitable unless there's enough buying pressure to overcome that dilution. So time will tell over the coming weeks if that still ends up happening. Amit, do you think it is too late for Intel? Yes. And I just look, as a trade, maybe. I mean, Intel is up 200% over the past year, a little bit more than that. It was at 18, now it's at 61. Like, I feel like the train has left the building. I'm annoyed that I didn't get on the trade, especially because, I mean, look, it wasn't a consensus long idea when Jensen and Trump invested in it. But now looking back on it, it's like, wait a second, Jensen and Trump, like, they're not going to let this thing fail. And so now it looks like that, but now it's $300 billion. Like, your upside here, what, you think it's going to be $600 billion, $1 trillion company? Like, maybe, but I don't know. It feels like it's going to be harder for it to get that big type of move, or at least the risk reward is not as strong as some of these other names that are still discounted from the earnings growth that they put up. So, I mean, I personally wouldn't. If it's a trade, sure. If it's a gamble, but as a full-on investment, I feel like there's still better opportunities that are out there. But then again, Trump and Jensen being invested, that obviously has a lot of implications for the potential contracts they can get. The wild card right here is SpaceX buys them out. Which, the more I think about it, how is Elon going to build a terawatt of compute in terafab? He's going to need his own vertically integrated foundry. You can't keep paying Samsung and what's the other, NVIDIA and AMD. Like, there's going to have some level of vertical integration that makes it happen. And if not, then, I don't know if this is easily going to run its course. Nebius right there, down 1.2%. Oracle down 0.79%. So yeah, I mean, Intel, if it's like a random trade, sure, but like establishing a position at 60, again, I feel like the stock probably has to be higher over the next few years as compute grows and as there's so many interests that are caring about Intel winning. But I feel like the easier bet is an AMD or an NVIDIA. SanDisk right there, that's up 3% again. Amazon up 0.4%. As you're seeing more momentum. Trump won't let Elon buy. That's a good point. That's probably true. But it would be kind of funny if he paid a hell of a premium for it, that would be maybe something that Trump allows. SpaceX is getting ready to go public as well. There's a couple of interesting facts that came out of SpaceX yesterday from Semaphore. They reported that Elon is trying to get ready to handle over $1 trillion of insider selling that is going to exist in SpaceX. And if that is the case, then, there's obviously going to be a very big liquidity event that it's going to have to navigate. If there is $1 trillion of selling pressure, especially from the VCs that are also going to be exiting their position and, C-suites that have been there for the past 15 years, then you're going to need a lot of people to buy. And the banks are going to be underwriting it to the best they can. But I also think the banks are going to be underwriting it to try to make sure there's a floor to the price to lure retail in, to make people think like it's okay to buy it at a $2 trillion valuation. And eventually there's going to be, more exiting. And the question is going to be who's left holding the bag, or this thing's going to $3 trillion. I think it's one or the other. I don't think it stays flat. I think it's either going up 2.5, 3 trillion, and there's just that much momentum, or inevitably there's going to be a bigger retracement. But there is going to be a lot of selling. And that selling will have to eventually translate from, one price to another price. Intel still needs to build out their Ohio plant. That's true as well. And, Ohio is a state that's getting a lot of investment. Anduril, Intel, a lot of these different countries or companies are starting to use Ohio basically as a renaissance of a new manufacturing gauge for for semiconductors. JD Vance, let's view a couple of clips that he had as he was departing for Pakistan last night. Here's what he said about how he thinks negotiations will go.
Hey guys, good morning. Thanks for coming. Look, we're looking forward to the negotiation. I think it's going to be positive. We'll of course see, as the President of the United States said, if the Iranians are willing to negotiate in good faith, we're certainly willing to extend the open hand. If they're going to try to play us, then they're going to find that the negotiating team is not that receptive. So we're going to try to have a positive negotiation. The president has gave us some pretty clear guidelines, and we're going to see. So I hope you guys have a safe flight. We'll certainly take some questions later on. But for now, let's get on the plane and hit the road. Thank you all.
He should have started negotiating either right now or in the next few hours. So we will probably get updates soon on what's happening with JD. And this was the NATO General Secretary last night talking about Trump's concerns about NATO.
I sensed his disappointment about the fact that he felt that too many allies were not with him. And I explained to him yesterday, I said, hey, Mr. President, clearly the overwhelming majority of Europeans have done what the US asked of him and what was previously agreed in these circumstances. And yes, sometimes it takes a bit of time, but hey, guess what? We have coalitions in Europe. We have sometimes the political home front to take care of. So sometimes it takes a couple of days, but then we pulled together, and almost the whole of Europe did, for the US to project power on the world stage through its partners in Europe. And the US, NATO is there, of course, to protect the Europeans, but also to protect the United States.
Now, Trump didn't say they had the best meeting, although this guy did say they had a good meeting. Trump was pretty annoyed with NATO still after the meeting with the NATO secretary. So I don't think the U.S. is going to leave NATO, but obviously there is a world in which the U.S. continues to condemn NATO, and we'll see how some of these NATO countries act after this deal is reached, if we do get a deal, and kind of what the implication of that meeting looks like. But the next 3 days all comes down to, is this negotiation going to work? And if it doesn't work, we are back to square one. I am a lot more optimistic than most. Let's actually do a poll in the chat on how optimistic people are about these negotiations resulting in some type of a deal. Right now, green or red, we have 67% of people saying green today versus red. So holding on to a little bit of that green would be nice. Do you think negotiations will lead to a deal? I mean, look, I don't know what the negotiations will look like. I don't think anyone does, but yes, I think we're going to get a deal in the next couple of weeks. I think we kind of have to get a deal too. So, or else we're just going back to the same nonsense back and forth. And I think given who Trump is and his personality, he wants to come out with a deal, look like he's the guy who saved everything. I think we'll get something, but time is going to tell in terms of how strong or bad this deal ends up being. Software, let's get into it. IGV getting a little bit of a rebound right here. So I did buy the Palantir dip yesterday, 129.62. It could be a falling knife. It might be going down to 120. So I do not suggest kind of buying or not buying the dip. Ultimately, it comes down to how much conviction do you have that this is a little bit too aggressive of a sell-off. I did a video yesterday talking about how aggressive the sell-off is. Obviously, I've been investing in the company for the past 5 years, so averaging up is not that scary to me. If you're establishing a new position and the stock goes to 100 and you buy at 130, you're going to be upset, right? Because obviously you could have got a $30 discount if it was really going lower. 125 is the key level. If we break 125 today, the idea that we go down to the low hundreds is very, very possible. It's not guaranteed. It's just, and Jason was talking about this last week as well. The technicals say it's very likely because there's not a lot of support below 125. 125 has been a core level for the past, honestly, for the past couple of years. Last February, we also had the same reaction where 125 was resistance and it turned into support. And now we're stuck at around 129, 130. And I don't know what happens today. I mean, at this point, you've got this Anthropic multi-orchestration agent platform that came out yesterday where a lot of people are starting to think, hey, is this competitive with Palantir writ large? And even if it is competitive with Palantir, let's give them the best version of that idea that yes, this is something that other companies could use instead of using Palantir. I don't think that decreases Palantir's TAM. I don't think that takes away Palantir's moat. Just like if Adobe or Anthropic comes out with a new model that's good for imaging, yes, that might hurt some of Adobe's market, but that does not take away what Adobe has built. It just might hurt their future growth concerns, which begs the question then, will it hurt Palantir's future growth concerns? And the street's expecting 80% growth next quarter. They're expecting them to do closer to 85% for the entire year. There's no other software company that's growing that fast besides AppLovin. And I don't see Palantir de-accelerating growth. There's a difference between them and some of the other software names in IGV that have been de-accelerating their core business. Palantir has only been accelerating it and accelerating it profitably with the best margin profile that's out there. So there's obviously the bull case that's outlined. The valuation is still expensive. It's always been expensive. The question is going to be how much of the valuation gets discounted. I think a decent amount of it has already got discounted. But if IGV and software continue to be a train wreck, then obviously that's not going to be best for Palantir, Microsoft, ServiceNow, Salesforce, Adobe, all those names that are stuck in that ecosystem. And, you know, Burry hates Palantir, but he's long Adobe. So it begs the question, if his argument is Anthropic's going to eat Palantir's lunch, it's like, well, why wouldn't Anthropic and all these other AI companies eat a photo editing platform's lunch? Well, it's probably because they're not going to eat their lunch. They're going to take away some level of large-scale momentum. But Adobe stopped growing years ago. It's not like Adobe stopped growing because of Claude. Like, I mean, for the past couple of years, it's been 10, 11% growth. That's not the sort of explosive growth that justifies a 28 to 35 PE. But Palantir is not really slowing down. If anything, it's accelerated over the past couple of years. So I think the logic behind, I'm going to go long one software name and short the other software name. One of them is growing like crazy with really good margins. The other one hasn't grown really anything in the past couple of years besides buying back their stock, which is artificially showing EPS growth. And Anthropic is the linchpin. It just doesn't make sense. The argument, when you try to make sense of it, you know, falls in a variety of logical syllogisms. So I'm going to be really curious at 9:30 how the market treats it. I'm going to be very, very curious. Let me know in the chat if anyone is buying the dip on any of these software names, or if you're selling, if you're getting a bit more conservative right here. Tesla 346 in the pre-market, that's going green. But yeah, today is going to be the second day. Yesterday was the worst day for software in all of 2026. Like, it was ugly. Everything in SaaS just took a disgusting beating. ServiceNow below 90. Adobe hit below 230. Salesforce was at 168. Oracle, which Nebius and CoreWeave were up. You would think Oracle gets a bit off that because you could say Oracle's like the ultimate neocloud, but they have a software business. And so the street's like, well, it's part of IGV. It's doing software. We got to take it down. Which feels a bit aggressive. So I guess we'll find out how this fully ends up playing out. Adobe stopped growing because of the subscription models. Yeah, and I mean, like in general, I mean, the Adobe CEO stepped down recently. Like, there's definitely different headwinds for a lot of these software companies. For Palantir, I think the main headwind is their valuation more than anything. It's like the actual tailwinds of the business have been incredibly strong. But yeah, the valuation's up there. But I don't think the stock is dumping because of the valuation. Like, it hasn't dumped for the valuation for the past 2 years or 3 years, quite frankly, because people could say at 20 it was expensive because it's always had an excessive multiple. If it was easy to short Palantir on valuation, everyone would have shorted Palantir and made a lot of money. It's not easy to do that. Same thing for Tesla. It's not easy to short some of these names just on valuation. There's usually fundamental catalysts, and it seems like the shift in paradigm for software is that fundamental catalyst that's happening right now. Meta right here, 635 in the pre-market. If you did buy the dip on Meta, congratulations. This one has done just incredibly well, 520 to 630. The biggest thing about Meta is that model that they're putting out seems to be really good. It reached number 6 in the App Store yesterday, so it is getting up there with those top 3 models, Anthropic's, Claude, GPT, and Gemini. 711 is number 5 for some reason. I don't know how 711 is number 5. But I should probably call one of my uncles because it is a family business and figure out what they're doing here. But number 6 is Meta. And if that continues to go higher, then, you know, we will see if Meta is actually competitive with some of these other models. I have not used Meta AI yet. I'm going to plan to use it over the weekend, but I've seen the reviews, and you know, the reviews seem relatively decent, but they're also not available in some of the sort of general APIs that people use for coding platforms. So they still have to accelerate, like Meta being able to be picked as one of the LLMs that people use in Cursor or Windsurf. So until that happens, we're going to see, you know, how much adoption they really get. Also, we talked about one of those representatives. We have some more details. Josh Gadamer, he's actually in Jersey. He bought 1.1 million of Microsoft, and he bought it in 325 strike call options. 325 strike call options in the money. So he is bullish Microsoft, but he's doing, and by the way, it's June 2026. So he's betting that after this earnings, or maybe he knows something that's going to happen in the next 2 months, Microsoft will be well above 325. And, you know, maybe that is going to be something that ends up playing out. Threads is also up there as well. Yeah. I mean, Threads is Does anyone use Threads? I don't use it, but this has been in the top 10 in the App Store for like the past 2 years because Meta just like pushes it on Instagram and Facebook and people download it. Threads is number 8 at the moment. 7-Eleven is now number 9. Meta AI is still number 6. And you have ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini still at the top. Threads still exists. Yeah. I mean, dude, apparently it has 400 million, 500 million monthly active users. They've started monetizing it. There's now ads on Threads. So it's a juicy ads business for Meta. If Zucks can just get the street to think that his models are valuable and there's consumer applications that can be built on top of those models, then, you know, maybe there's a world in which the market gets a bit more excited about perceiving Meta as a real AI play. Okay, so those were some of kind of our core AI headlines. We talked about the war and the Strait of Hormuz. Let's get a little bit more coverage on that strait, as the opening of it is the thing that most people are now concerned about. And you know, if it actually will give us a chance for oil prices to start coming down.
The sentiment around the region is pretty cautious right now. Of course, Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to depart Joint Base Andrews later today for these peace talks in Pakistan. He's expected back in Washington by Sunday, which makes this a rapid-fire 36-hour diplomatic sprint to try and find common ground on Hormuz, on sanctions, and on Iran's nuclear program. And based on everything that we're seeing this morning, the VP and the US delegation are going to need every single minute. Of course, the Strait of Hormuz is still not open. Actually, Reuters reports this morning that in the first 24 hours of the ceasefire, only 1 tanker and 5 carriers made it through, of course, all on Iran's terms. President Trump has also been on Truth Social twice in the last few hours, warning Iran to stop charging fees to those tankers, and also saying Tehran has been doing a dishonorable job of allowing ships to pass through. The president said that is not the agreement that we have. And then on the other side here, Iran comes demanding full war reparations, sanctions relief, and the US withdrawal from the region. It also wants to keep its uranium enrichment program. The White House said Trump had already thrown Tehran's 10-point plan in the garbage. So the Gulf states are, of course, watching these talks very closely. They want a deal that permanently removes Iran's influence from the Strait of Hormuz. There is also some anxiety here that the US exits without helping to solve the long-term threat of Iranian missiles and drones that have been hitting Gulf infrastructure over the last month. The Gulf states certainly welcoming this ceasefire, but given the uncertainty as we come into the Islamabad talks this weekend, certainly not celebrating it just yet. Andrew?
So the Strait of Hormuz is not effectively open yet. And the fact that oil, crude, are we still below 100? I think we are. Crude's at 98, 97. Okay, so lowest since yesterday. The fact that oil has gone down is not a function of us actually giving more supply to the system. It's not like we've shipped millions and millions of barrels, which has caused the price to go down. It's just the pure perception that that's going to happen has been priced in. And that's why we're seeing crude at least get the discount from 117, but it's not really real yet. And until these negotiations end up playing out, we don't know how real it's going to be. But that's also why these negotiations need to happen, and they need to happen fast, because obviously for those that are just joining, the March CPI was the highest we've seen since May of 2024. The only way to combat that for April, and it's still pretty early in April to get CPI to come down by the end of April, is oil to come down. Gas prices were 75% of the reason for the increase, and energy index was 11% of the entire increase, the largest since 2005. So this was pretty much a oil-driven story. It wasn't tariffs or healthcare or housing or, you know, new used vehicles. It was energy, and hopefully energy is what helps it come down. Wasn't just the perception that made it go high in that first place. Yeah, that's also fair as well. But we did have, you know, a month of nothing moving through the strait. If anything, we had 1 or 2 ships a day. So that perception spiked it, but then that perception was able to be sustained by the reality on the ground of, you know, not having. Granted, we did release the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which bought us a couple of weeks, and that kind of calmed it down. So a lot of, I guess, the oil market does trade on just the perception of where oil is going in the future. But now we got to back it up. Right, like we got a ceasefire. The market's giving us the benefit of the doubt. I mean, the S&P has not budged in 3 days. Like you would think I mean, we're so used to these pumps getting faded. This pump has accelerated. We're at 681. We are 2% away from all-time highs on the S&P. Doesn't feel like it because a lot of different stocks are getting hit. AppLovin, Tesla, Palantir, Rocket Lab, Robinhood, etc. But it's from an index level, it is a bull market. And if oil comes down, maybe that bull market has a chance of continuing here. So in the next 4 minutes, we are going to see on this Friday morning how the market opens. And if this continues to get some momentum, does Microsoft and Anthropic have a partnership? Yes, they announced a partnership a while ago. Anthropic has a partnership with pretty much every hyperscaler. They, Dario, Satya, and Jensen did a video. I think this was back in like early January of them collaborating together. It's like a $10 billion agreement. So, I mean, at this point, Anthropic is working with every single hyperscaler that's out there. And again, if we think Anthropic's going to destroy the $1 trillion SaaS industry, NVIDIA should be a $10 trillion company today because they can't do that without compute. It's just that simple. You need compute, and you need a lot of it if you're going to take over the 300,000 businesses that Salesforce has as clients, which is what Salesforce is being priced as, or the Salesforce is being discounted as if Anthropic's going to take all of that market, but NVIDIA is not getting the multiple, which means the market doesn't actually believe that's going to happen because like you would shift resources out of software and go super long semis. And we haven't really seen that. You've seen some names get a little bit of a bid here and there, especially the smaller market cap ones. But you haven't seen like all that software money that's stuck in these hedge funds and institutional investors leave if they actually thought Anthropic was going to destroy the software industry. And so if you don't see that happening, I think it's more of a question of this being oversold and like sentiment being bad versus the actual logic of it being correct. If the logic of it was correct, then that money has to go to AMD, Broadcom, NVIDIA, because the demand to handle trillions of dollars of software enterprise spend is only going to come from more compute if Anthropic's really going to take over the entire industry. And like, yeah, Anthropic's going to get a good chunk of it, but they are not, destroying every single company that's out there. At least that's not how I think it's going to end up playing out. What's happened to Rocket Lab? It's been going down. Yeah, the space theme, again, is very volatile right here. Rocket Lab is up a little bit right here in pre-markets. ASTS, Rocket Lab, Lunar, all that stuff, it rests on SpaceX actually making the move that people think it's going to make. And you've got about 2 months. The S1 should be coming out pretty soon, though. I mean, if SpaceX is ready to go public in June, the S1 should come out soon. Oh, we did get some data yesterday. SpaceX did $18.5 billion in revenue last year. So that reported 15 billion number is up to 18.5. But they lost $5.5 billion. So they're not profitable. Now, part of the reason they lost that money was because of the XAI acquisition. So maybe it's a one-time thing. But they did acquire XAI. And as a result of acquiring XAI, that ended up, allowing them to lose a lot of money. So, I mean, investors are going to have to see how relevant that IPO is going to end up turning out to become, even with the numbers that they're putting up. By the way, this stat before we get into the market open, I thought was also interesting as well. We do have the re-entry. Oh, we do have the re-entry of Artemis today. Yep. That's going to be important. Hopefully we'll get to stream that if we see it happening on the open or close. The daily turnover in the S&P 500 has surpassed 60 billion in a record 29 trading sessions. That's how many times the S&P goes up and down, or how much money is buying and selling it at the same time. Before the 2020 pandemic, the record was 14 trading days straight of daily turnover, which essentially is another word for choppiness, which is what we've been calling it, back in 2008. So this is the first time in a long time, these past 4 days, that we've had that chop end up turning into a trend. And hopefully that trend ends up sustaining itself as we officially get into the month of April. And maybe we see if oil prices end up actually going down. All right, here we go. Friday, April 10th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's see if this software sell-off continues. And let's see if we can have a fifth day of green momentum. 9:30 a.m., the stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Palantir opens red on the day. 127.68, another 2.3% decline. Unfortunately, IGV, another 1% decline. Adobe, another 0.5% decline. Salesforce going red again. Wow, 169 on Salesforce. ServiceNow, 87.44. The software sell-off continues. The software sell-off is not getting any better. But some of the tech names are up. Tesla goes green. Iren goes green. QQQ goes green. Amcor, this has been an absolute champ. 56.39, that's up 2.27%. Wolf, that's up 2%. Cypher's up 2.38. Axon's up 1.48. SoFi getting a little bit of a bid as well. Ondas, that's up 1%. Oscar's up 0.2. IBKR is up 0.29. Where is Robinhood? Robinhood is flat at $70. Nvidia, are we at 184? We are at 185 on Nvidia. So Nvidia getting some more momentum. Looks like some of that money is leaving the software sector and potentially going into semis. We'll see how much more aggressive the rotation could become. Rocket Lab going green at 67.55. Microsoft at 373. S&P at 681. Microsoft bucking the trend on the software names going red. Microsoft, one of the largest components of IGV, actually going green, which is nice to see right here. But Palantir getting hit, down 2%, along with Salesforce, along with Adobe. Grab right there, actually green on the day, 371. Again, Grab introduced cash loans at their Grab product event. They introduced 12 new products, second annual event. Most tech companies in Southeast Asia do not do product events, so very proud that they had that second event 2 years in a row. That cash loan product should be really good for their fintech business, and that's why I think the street's also been giving a little bit more momentum over the past couple of days. AMD, that's up 2%, 241 on AMD. Oracle, is that getting hit because of the software business? Oracle is still red. Broadcom should be going green. Broadcom is green, 367. Okay, so software to semis rotation, I think, is happening. AMD, Broadcom, and NVIDIA, at least in the first couple minutes, is showing that we're seeing some excitement. Robinhood just went green. Where's the VIX? The VIX is down another 3%. VIX below 19. Very good to see today. If we can get crude below 95, that'd also be nice. ELF right there, 1.67%. Salesforce still down. Palantir trying to bounce off 127. We hit 126.70. Okay, so that's an actually important number. 126 was the exact number we bounced on February 24th. So I know we got to hold 125, but 126 is actually the low for the year. So let's see if we actually get below that and if that keeps going down. Rocket Lab right there, 68. Microsoft 374. S&P at 681. That continues to still be relatively green, at least to an extent. So we are seeing a decent chunk of momentum right now come right back in semis. Nebius, how's that doing with your Nebius 137? Okay, so that's green. Your CoreWeaves of the world, let's see if that goes green at all. Let's pull up CoreWeave, Nebius 137. Again, 141 is that all-time high. CoreWeave is green, 95. Even after the dilution, CoreWeave is green. Iren also getting a little bit of green. So your Neo Clouds and your semiconductor names, SMH should be up big right now. SMH is up 2%. Yeah, money is leaving IGV, I think, and going to... So look at NVIDIA. I mean, that makes me more confident to say software is going into semis, which is theoretically what should be happening if software believes that it's going to be destroyed by the foundation model companies. Question is how much you believe in that. Like AppLovin, does that really deserve to continue getting... It's down from 450. It's really down from 800 from a couple months ago, but I mean, that one continues to get hit. How about Reddit? Is that getting any love? Reddit, a little bit of green. Where's Meta? Meta's at 636. That's green. How about the Googs? The Googs is at 320. That's holding up on the day. Amazon continuing its momentum, 237. For the first time in a while, you're seeing Amazon get some love. NVIDIA and AMD, I mean, it's a great day to own semis. It's a sucky day to own software. It's a great day to own semis. You're seeing what I think is somewhat of a rotation. Long semis, short software. AMD 243. This thing was at 267, went all the way down to 195 during March. NVIDIA, similar drawdown, not as aggressive, but still about 190 to 165. And they're starting to get back their momentum. Palantir looks like we could lose 126 right here. This one really getting hit hard. Salesforce really getting... Wow, ServiceNow down 4. Okay, so the entire software sector obviously feeling it. Some software names escaping a little bit of it and going green. Lumentum, that one's red. Marvell's had a hell of a run. This thing was below 100 a couple of days ago. Or sorry, a couple of weeks ago. 127 on Marvell as that's continuing to get some excitement. Rocket Lab is now going 68.63. That's up 2.8. Meta, we're looking for 640. Meta was chilling at 640 for a while before the war. So it wouldn't be that crazy for it to get back at those levels. Netflix at 102. Netflix is green. Circle's up on the day. Rich Tech Robotics is up. Saidu Space up 17%. That's probably why Rocket Lab's green. The space names in general are just taking off. Air Test Systems, another 4%, 7182. The multiple on that is quite aggressive, but it's also a small cap. So maybe, it doesn't matter too much as people are bidding it up. CrowdStrike goes red again, 383 on Crowd. Yeah, I just don't think that's justified. I don't. If the market thinks that cybersecurity is dead because of AI, then, or at least Anthropic's going to be the new cybersecurity, champion. It's a little weird to see that playing out. You also have Palo Alto, which was at around 170, dropped right back down to 160, down 3.4%. Hyperscalers and semiconductor names and your neo clouds getting the love. Your software names are not. At least not today. Why is Micron red? That is actually a great question. Micron should be green. Wow, Micron. That's weird. SanDisk also going slightly. That is actually very weird. There's too many AI names that are green today for Micron to be going red. Nebius 141 is that all-time high. It looks like it's ready to break, or it's going to try 139.15 right there. Amcor as well, 56. SoFi also going red. Apple going red. AppLovin, another 3% down on AppLovin. Palantir 125. Yeah, this one's fallen. But it's falling with ServiceNow. It's falling with AppLovin. It's falling with IGV. Some of these software names kind of flipping green. Zeta still red on the day. But IGV, it broke the lows from not only yesterday, but from February 24th. 1.7% again. As that one is going down. Nebius, did we get 140? Did we get it? There she is, 140. I will check resistance for 141. Let's see if that is ready to officially break through. 141 resistance. That is that all-time high. It's like 7,000 shares. That's not a lot. It probably breaks it. If it gets a little bit more buying pressure, we should see that break today. SanDisk now going slightly green. Micron still red. Rocket Lab 6835. NVIDIA. I mean, people have been waiting for the NVIDIA move. It looks like at least it's starting to get some more momentum. 186 right there for NVIDIA. Trump just tweeted the great reset is, he said, world's most powerful reset. President DJT, world's most powerful reset. I don't know what that means. But is that our it's time to buy signal, world's most powerful reset? Is that's what I don't know. I mean, he's obviously talking about the negotiations with Iran, potentially resetting things. Snowflake down 3, Path down 2, Atlassian down 3. It is once again a bloodbath. Workday down another 2 after being down 8 yesterday. I mean, software is dead, apparently, to the market. That's it. Software is dead. The neoclouds, the hyperscalers, and the chip companies are what you bet on, I guess. At least that's the rotation we're seeing. Amazon right there, 238. And that is also very good. The good thing about this is I don't think a lot of people, put in the chat if you're heavily allocated towards software. Obviously, I have my allocation with Palantir. But I think a lot more people own NVIDIA, AMD, Amazon, Google, Broadcom over Salesforce, Adobe, ServiceNow, and Intuit. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's ugly and it's not pretty, but I think the majority of retail is more levered towards either big tech or semis, not, IGV. So as painful as it is for the market, hopefully it's not as painful. But, you might have your favorite software name that is obviously going down if you have any level of software exposure. Shopify right there, 112. Shopify at least holding it. Shopify is seen as a software name, so at least that one's not going red today. But that is going flat. Yeah, a lot of people saying if Microsoft is your exposure, I think you're going to be okay. Like Microsoft, I don't know why the street's treating it like this. I mean, I know why. The Copilot software stuff is confusing them. The adoption of that software business not growing, but Microsoft is so much more than Copilot, and we all know that. And I think Azure once again will blow away numbers. Question is, will it get the re-rating it had last time? But Microsoft's not the same as being stuck with like a Salesforce at the moment or an Intuit. Amazon, can we go for 240? Let me check 240 resistance on Amazon. Let me check 240. Jose said Synopsys and Cadence would be his main software picks if he were to get into software because they're still in the chip ecosystem, which I think is fair. 240 on Amazon would require the market purchasing 167,359 shares, which is not that much for Amazon, to be honest. So maybe somebody. Why is Micron dumping? That's also SanDisk. The memory names should not be, NVIDIA should not be going up and the memory names going down. It's a kind of a weird Friday, dude. Like, you got software that once again is getting wrecked. No sense of a rebound. You've got random small cap AI names holding on to momentum. Airtest Systems just went red after being up 5%. So that flipped. VG is at 12 now. That's down 3. Cloudflare down 7%. Cloudflare is down 15% this week. It was down 10% yesterday. Sorry, 17% this week. That just feels a little aggressive given how important Cloudflare is. I know it's a software company, but like just because you sell software as a service doesn't mean your stock deserves to be down 40%. Like it feels a little stupid now. Nebius, there you go. All-time highs. 141.85. There it is. All-time highs on Mr. Nebesis. 142. I'm going to check resistance at 143. 8,000 shares. This one might end up running much harder than it is right now. 142 on Nebius. Volume of 3 million shares. Market cap 35 billion. They have obviously proven themselves as, you know, the best neocloud. It's just that simple. At this point, price action and the actual diversification of their business kind of tells the whole story. CoreWeave and AI, you know, important companies, but they are just not performing the way Nebius says. CoreWeave right there up 3.4%. Where is Iren? Iren is at 38.58. That's at least up 4% of the day. Palantir, still no bounce off 125. Still stuck there. IGV down 2.3. NVIDIA trying to get back up to 187. Broadcom also, really nice to see Broadcom get this level of attention. This thing was below 300 4 days ago. 369 on the day. This is a large one. This is a big one. So it's nice to see this one get some more momentum. What's your Nebius average? 97. 97. So again, I sold 60% of my position to buy more NVIDIA last month. Still have 40% of my position, and that's at 97. And I think on that, I mean, at this point, I think you let it ride, right? Like if it's a runaway train, it's a runaway train. There is some pressure to sell it because 142 from 97 is, you know, a big gain. But also they're the best neocloud. It is what it is. Like they're the winner. Iren is not the winner here. CoreWeave's not the winner. I feel like CoreWeave is the most competitive with it, but the street has decided Nebius's business model is the one to win. Now, the question is, will they dilute here? Which also is another reason where, you know, I'm more compelled to sell calls than not, but they also just diluted. So why would they dilute? Like Nate, I see you in the chat. Do you think they're going to dilute it? I mean, they just did a $4 billion raise 3 weeks ago. So if I'm selling calls or selling shares on the fear of dilution, like I think that's a limited fear, or it should be a limited fear based on. Also, I think some of their hyperscaler deals include prepayments. So, you know, as much as they have to dilute, they're not going to need to dilute as aggressively as people think. CrowdStrike below 380 as that one continues to get hit. Someone says, I sold all my SoFi to buy Nebius at 103. Hey, not bad. I mean, SoFi right now is stuck. A lot of fintech is stuck. That Nebius gain is up 30% for you in what seems like a relatively short period of time. Zeta as well, still down below 2%. Palantir loses 125. Palantir loses 125. Tanner says customers prepay 60%. They raised $2 billion with NVIDIA. Yeah, they're not going to dilute again. I mean, they will dilute eventually, but I don't think they dilute on this pump. And I know people feel like it's inevitable because CoreWeave just did it, but I don't think it's as easy for them to do that. Broadcom, wow, 372. 372. IGV is down 2.5%. Shout out to Jace. Thank you for the super chat. AM freaking D, 55% of my portfolio at 87. Congratulations Advanced money duplicator right here. I did buy AMD at 208 back on the dip, held it through those March lows. And I've been in and out of AMD so many times, but that position at 208 was after the 260 fall, after they grew 35% on earnings. It just didn't feel like it was justified to get hit that bad. But then again, the whole market was, I mean, if you bought anything realistically outside of software in the past month, whether it's a Broadcom, a Nebius, which is now 145, 7% up on the day, even a Micron in the 300s. I mean, you're up, right? That was the opportunity of the dip. I know a lot of people are skeptical because of the Iran war. It is what it is. If you bought anything since then, you know, you're seeing a little bit more of that momentum to the upside right here. NVIDIA, are we going for 187? Let me check resistance at 187 on NVIDIA. It would be really freaking nice to see this finally make a very strong move after being stuck in the 160s. 187 resistance on NVIDIA. 62,000 shares. That doesn't feel that crazy. That doesn't feel that crazy. APLD is up 8%. My Nebius covered calls will cost me $2,000 to buy back, but it's $4,000 out of the money. I'm confused. How does rolling work? Okay, so because let's say you have a strike on Nebius at 130 and the stock is now at 145, you made a bet with the market that Nebius wouldn't be above 130. Nebius is obviously above 130. Let's say your expiration is today. Because your bet went the opposite direction and the call buyer is the one who's winning, remember, you sold them the call. Someone who bought your call and used your 100 shares as collateral bought the call. And you're wrong in this situation. They're right. So the only way to get out of this situation is you either buy back the calls for a loss to be able to keep your shares, or you roll your 130 strike to, for example, a 150 strike, but you have to add extrinsic value to the contract. There's intrinsic and extrinsic value. Extrinsic value usually comes from time. And so you have to go out probably multiple months, given how deep in the money you are. I'm just making this up if your strike is 130, and given the stock is $15 deeper in the money. And you're going to add multiple months to be able to add time to your original call so that you don't have to pay to increase your strike price. The value of doing this is if you can go from 130 to 150, even if your strike is in July, you're now eligible for an extra $20 of upside. So instead of having to sell at 130, you get to sell at 150. The problem is you have to wait for a couple months. If Nebius goes to 200 by July, you know, you're missing out on a lot of those gains, but that is the opportunity cost of selling a covered call. And that's kind of the risk that is associated with it when you do sell covered calls. Now, you can roll it again if it ends up going nuclear, but you're going to have to roll it out a very long time to be able to have access to those shares. So, you know, if you're stuck in covered calls on Nebius, obviously this is what happens when some stocks go nuclear. Yeah, you're probably going to have to get out of them. But if not, then you let the shares go and you just say, all right, I got whatever premium I got. The buyer ended up winning this contract, and you move on from that covered call. NVIDIA, 187. There you go. 187, Nebius 146. Okay, so both of these, 117 strike. Yeah, you're cooked. Let's see. I mean, you might be able to roll like till November or something, but yeah, you're cooked. Those shares are gone. Or maybe you roll it to like 125 and hope that Nebius dilutes and this thing tanks. But again, that is the risk with covered calls. It's a good learning lesson for anyone who's new to covered calls. Like, this is just what happens when you're in them. But also it's the price, it's the risk you took knowing there was a war, assuming that the war would potentially hedge some of these stocks from going up. And that's why you sold the covered call in the first place, right? There's always a reason you sold it. So you can't be too upset at yourself if the call or the stock goes past your strike. Marvell up 5, Nebius 146, Broadcom 374, CoreWeave 96, Applied Digital, that's a Microsoft just went red, IGV continuing to get destroyed, Palantir just absolutely wrecked. We have lost 124 on Palantir. We have lost 124 on Palantir, 123. This is obviously a structural sell-off in software, and Palantir is getting the brunt of it. Micron about to go green, which it should be. Micron shouldn't be red today. Rock Lab as well, as that one is starting to go a bit more red here as well on Rocket Lab. SanDisk 859, Palantir 123.75 continues to get hit. Nebius 144, and NVIDIA Still green. ServiceNow down 7%, dude. See, this is not just Palantir, but like this is obviously not just Palantir. You can't have two of the biggest software companies both get hit 7 to 8% after getting hit 7 to 8% yesterday. This is a structural software sell-off, but it doesn't look like there's any end in sight until we see any meaningful capitulation. It's the entire sector. SPY looks like it's about to go red. Adobe 225 down 2% here. I don't know, guys. I mean, the market thinks software is dead. I guess software is dead. Like, I don't know. Like, AMD 250, AMD getting the bid with NVIDIA right there, almost at 250, getting ready to kind of touch that level right there. Yeah, this is a bit confusing to say the least on software, but this narrative has existed for a while. It's not like this narrative hasn't existed. It's just now the question is, how bad will this narrative, become over the coming months? Applied Digital, that's still down. Zeta's getting hit because of this. Palantir, little bounce off 123. Micron still at 420. Anthropic, I guess, is your core reason for this. Adobe is trading at a 9 times forward PE. Fun. Now, I do think there's a lot of algos going crazy on a Friday because you've got some weird action going back and forth, and Intel up another 2.5%. Like, some of these names, the momentum that they've seen, the fact that the momentum is continuing without any level of break or retracement, I don't know. I mean, are people really just bidding up Intel again today after a 20% move? Like, maybe. Are people really selling CrowdStrike again? 5%, AppLovin another 3%. Like, I don't know. Airtest Systems was up 5%, down 5%. Now it's back up 5%. Like, this is Cloudflare is down 9%. Firefly's down 2%. Shopify just went red. PayPal's red. Fastly's down 11%. This is one of your best performers this year. It was down 10% yesterday as well. So you're talking about a 20% retracement, 30 to, at this point, 26. Rubrik was down 10% yesterday. Rubrik, I don't know that much about their business, but down another 4% today. I mean, does this deserve to be down 60% this year? Space Names also getting hit a little bit. Redwire, that one 971 to 920. Nebius still holding on to the green at 146. CoreWeave as well, still holding on to the green. Up 5%. All data centers are pumping except Oracle. Is this tied to IGV? Yes, I think that is the only reason. Oracle has a legacy software business, which is tied to them. I believe it's called NetSuite. And that part of their software business, for some reason, gets rid of the $300 billion in RPO and the massive level of data center spend that Oracle is committed to, because they're part of IGV. I mean, this is starting to feel kind of stupid, but maybe that's the opportunity. Maybe software is just the obvious opportunity here, or maybe it's all BS. I mean, I'm not sure at this point. SanDisk right there, 862. That's still up 1.3%. Amcor 56. Shorts might be covering. Yeah, that's also fair. FICO, this one has been hit. Oh my gosh, 9% on FICO. This was down 9% 2 weeks ago. Year to date, FICO's down 40%. We're talking about Fair Isaac Corp. This is not something that moves like this. You've got the most boring of boring investors that own this stock. They do not own it for 40% moves up or down. They barely own it for 5% moves up or down. And I think it started when Anthropic said they were coming out with all these new financial products, even though I don't think you can just classify financial products and then boom, go short FICO. But maybe there's a question around credit ratings and how Anthropic might use AI to be more effective on that. I don't know. Nebius 147. It looks like it has a date with 150. 147 right there, 8% up on the day. NVIDIA also looks like she wants 188. That's the thing saving a lot of portfolios today. The fact that some of the neo clouds and some of these semiconductor names and your hyperscalers like an Amazon are holding on to their momentum. Meta going a little red, but still slightly green on the day. Google at 320. Everything else is just wrecked. Everything else is just wrecked. AMD, advanced money duplicator, 250. That's holding up, or at least very close to touching. Let me check 250 resistance on AMD, because we didn't check that resistance yet. What are people doing? Is anyone buying, selling? If you're sitting on a big winner right now, like an AMD, a Nebius, or an NVIDIA, are you doing anything today? 250 resistance on AMD. 88,000 shares. 88,000 shares for Mr. AMD. I'm still crying. Laura says, Nebius all-time high. I'm crying. It's been such a long battle. You know, this thing did go to 141 and then fell down to freaking 70, right? It got chopped in half. My first buy was at 108 when it fell from 130 to 108 the day of earnings. This was back in November. Obviously, that was a bit too early. And then I averaged down to 97. And then it's, you know, right back here to 147. But there, you know, I do not have the largest position in the world on Nebius. There are people on Twitter. I mean, I think there's this one guy who has like 30,000 shares. I mean, there's, when we talk about cults, Nebius has a cult. ASTS has a cult. Iren obviously has a cult, which goes back and forth with Nebius. But Nebius has turned into one of those stocks that has a real following. And that following is, you know, very loyal to the company, and they bought the dip heavily, and they're being rewarded for that. Amazon right there, 238, Rocket Lab 67.22, Reddit flipping slightly green on the day. Do you still have Intel? No. That was 100 shares. It was a trade. Although if I held on to those 100 shares, Intel would be doing a lot better than other stocks. Again, you guys saw me when Intel was going from 25 to 35 to 45. Every day I would groan because I wanted to buy it because I had a thesis at 25. I didn't follow through. But then I wasn't buying at 35. I wasn't going to buy at 45. I wasn't going to buy at 55. And now it's at 6. Like, I'm not buying at 65. It is what it is. You missed it. It's over. And it's probably going to 75 at this point. That's the worst thing, dude. When you want to buy a stock and it keeps going up and you're like, I can't buy it at this price, but it just keeps going up. And obviously the historically right thing to do is just buy it. But, you know, psychology definitely goes in the opposite direction. Accenture, that's down 3% as well. That's also getting hit. Intel still at 162. Sasuke says, I bought Nebius around $34, 400 shares, never selling. Congratulations. Wow, we got a whale in the chat. Aaron Bath, 12,600 shares. Congratulations, sir. It's a big win. Big win right here on that. I sold some AEHR, sold some covered calls on Intel. Took a loss on ServiceNow. Okay, so some people capitulating on software. Dude, like, I don't know if it's easy to sell these software names here. Now, like, conceptually, it's easy to leave them and just go buy something in the semiconductor space. But at what point does this stuff bottom? Like, is ServiceNow going to $40? Like, are we talking about just absolute annihilation? At some point, this thing is down from 150. At the beginning of the year, or October, let's use October. It was at 190 in October. Let's be more reasonable. In October, it was at it's at 83. It's down more than 50%. At some point, this thing has to bottom, right? Like, there's got to be a bottom somewhere here, or like, which means selling here, you know, outside of opportunity costs. I think the fear is, are you selling the bottom? Which obviously would be even more annoying than putting something into a different company that runs faster. Tesla right there, 347. As that one is still down. Yeah, the CEO did buy more shares. So did Salesforce. I don't know, dude. This is weird. This is very weird. FICO still getting hit. Hollis said, I sold AMD and Nebius in March. Going opposite of me is a great strategy this year. I'm sure you're not alone, dude. I mean, there are plenty of... March shook out a ton of people. And... you know, every time, I mean, retail did not buy the dip in March. Let me say that. Some of retail bought the dip, but 1,000% retail was not screw Trump. Like, we don't believe him. We're buying the dip. That's not what happened. I mean, just from the polls every day that I did on, are you buying the dip? The majority, it was like 70-30 no almost every day when I asked. This was not the same as April of 2025, where retail was just like, I don't care what happens. I'm buying the dip. This was a lot of fear, warranted fear, but a lot of fear and skepticism around potentially entering into a massive bear market because we have a war that is spiking up oil prices to the highest we've seen in 5 years. And people were scared. And we saw it in the data. Retail participation in March was abysmal. You look at it in the Robinhood data, it was abysmal. And then you look at the Bank of America data, it had fallen off for the lowest level in 4 years. So this was not a story of retail going heavy in March. This is a story of retail potentially going heavy after the ceasefire, which means, you know, maybe the returns aren't going to be as juicy as it was during Liberation Day. But obviously being in the markets is, you know, still an important thing. Meta right there, 631. Google at 319. Horrible consumer sentiment. Yep. Oh, did we get consumer sentiment today? Did that just come out? Oh, yeah, we did. Oh boy. Laura, thank you for that reminder. 47.6 versus 53.3. 47.6 just came out versus 53.3. Not the prettiest macro data. Let me pull this up right here, as that's what we are looking at. Market S&P seems to not care too much about it.
Mission more with Rick Santelli. Hey, Rick. We're going to do you mission. I'll tell you what, buckle up. These are some weak numbers. If we look at the headline, this is Universal Mission Sentiment, April preliminary. In a couple weeks, they'll fine tune it. And remember, the low read that we had was in 22 at 50. And my database goes back to 1978. The new read, 47.6. I don't have anything up back to 78 that's any lower than that. And if we look at current conditions, that was headline 50.1. Same scenario. My records have 50.4 is the low. So another very extremely low level on expectations. 46.1. 46.1. Do I have anything lower than that? I don't. I have 47 and change. So another one that goes beyond mine. If we look at inflation numbers, 4.8 on the 1 year inflation. That would equal where we were in August of last year. To find a higher number, you're in June of last year at 5%. 5 to 10 year, 3.4 as expected. Rear view mirror, 3.2. 3.4 equals November. To find a higher number, you're back to October 25. Now we have a litany of numbers here with regard to durable goods and factory orders. On the durable goods side, these are all final reads. So minus 1.3 replaces minus 1.4. Strip out transportation. 9/10 replaces 8/10. On non-defense, X-Air proxy for capital spending on the order side. 7/10 replaces up 6/10. And on the shipments, 1% replaces 9/10%. And let's look at factory orders. These are fresh February numbers. On factory orders, what do we have? Headline number comes in at 0, unchanged. Goose egg, we're expecting a negative number. Last month gets revised to 0 as well. And if you strip out transportation on this February factory orders number, 1.2. That is 3 times what we were expecting. Transportation is really strong. 1.2 would be the strongest level going back to August of 23. How did the market digest all of that? Well, interest rates started to go up after that warm CPI, and they continue to move up a bit. Listen, these University of Michigan sentiment numbers are a survey. They look extreme to me, and that doesn't surprise me. But we do know that what's going on in the Middle East, it's a real question of how long it lasts, and that'll give us a better clue as to how long these levels on some of the data I just gave you will last as well.
Okay, so not the best consumer confident numbers. I don't know if the market's going to care that much today, given the negotiations are starting. Yeah, S&P barely moving right here, 680. I mean, obviously sentiment's not good, and that's a good gauge to kind of understand how sentiment is ultimately going to be playing out, or how like consumer demand could be playing out in the context of sentiment. But the ceasefire stuff is way more relevant. Way more relevant right here, especially given, you know, the numbers of people that they poll. Nebius right here, Where are we at? Are we breaking 150? Let me check resistance at 150, 147. Dude, that's a that's a pretty big move on this name, dude. I don't think the Iran people can say anything anymore. And again, this is not my beef. I picked a side, but it's not my beef. But I mean, what can you say if you're an Iran person? Like at some point you just lose, right? 150 is 65,000 shares. 65,000 shares. I mean, 65,000, not that much given the volume. Given the volume here. Palantir 123. This is getting hit. You say nothing, you just shut up. Dude, it happens. I mean, it's kind of what happened with Hood and SoFi, dude. Hood and SoFi both were around that $7 range. Hood went to 150 and SoFi went to like 20. Both still good returns, but one just went nuclear. Obviously now Hood's pulled back. But with Nebius and Iran, I mean, they were kind of at the same price, and one is 5x, the other one is stuck. It's just a different league right here. Google at 319, Amazon 237. That one is still down. Nebius is still short 20%, right? So that's also another thing where you can get a squeeze up there to be more aggressive. Yeah, you know, I remember I talked to ticker symbol U at a GTC. He said Iran was his favorite. And so it's not like Iran is a horrible company or something, but their capacity for power and ultimately higher gigawatts at, I think, 4.5, that's what I think attracted most people. But the deal flow just hasn't fully come through yet. TSM, 3%. Their numbers in March were obviously very good as well. Or sorry, yeah, for March this morning that we saw was very strong. I had a Nebius share count ending in 99, so I decided not to sell any calls last week and thought that's done, but then forgot about it. That one share saved you from being stuck in covered calls. Iran still up 5% on the day, getting some momentum with the other neoclouds. Palantir is a falling knife. I mean, this is aggressive. This is the first time we've seen a 3-day swing of Palantir down almost 20% in a while. And it is happening. Nate says, I just bought back covered calls and sold 190s for 2 weeks out, paying me 110 per contract. 190s is paying you 110? What the hell? That's pretty crazy. Spotify is also a software company, right? To an extent. Spotify down 2%. I mean, yeah, Spotify is software, I would say. At least in some capacity. Why do you think Hood is down today? I don't know. I mean, Bitcoin's kind of flat. Obviously, momentum to the downside being priced into the market as retail activity slowed down. Then again, if we get a deal, retail activity should be back. It's a literal stock picker's market. I mean, if you picked FICO, you're down 12%, right? Like if you picked Microsoft, you're down 20% from January. Like it's one of those, if you picked Hood, you're down. If you picked Meta at 750, you're down. If you picked Meta at 520, you're up. Like there's not that many trends or thematics to describe a synopsis of how this market is playing out outside of the fact that it's a stock picker's market. And oil has been the catalyst. The broader S&P is holding up. Industrials and consumer defensives holding up the S&P. Energy still red. Tech contributing with the hyperscalers, but it's not like 2025 where everything inside of high beta and growth just got a bid. I mean, we're just not in that time frame or not in that type of market. Which, yeah, it's annoying because it was way easier last year to take your pick, but it seems like you got to be a lot more selective right here. Nebius 147.64. A-Lab is up 10%. The networking plays gained some love. Rubrik down 43% this year. Bought Palantir. Still choppy times. Iran 1 year return 611. Nebius 1 year return 601. Nebius clearly has the better pick here today. Yeah, I mean, look, Iran was a freaking $4 or $5 stock when it was a Bitcoin miner, right? So obviously the stock has made a pretty massive move from that level. But it's less about the stock. It's more about the deals, right? What is the next big deal? And, maybe if Iran gets that deal, it's going back up to, it was at 80 at one point back in November. So I think that's what people are waiting for. And if they see that deal, that's where this one continues to gain some excitement. Microsoft, it was green, but it can't hold on to it. IGV down another 4% today, dude. Amid, should I roll here? I have 150 Nebius April. Dude, Tanner, the fact that your 150s are being challenged, it's kind of crazy. No, I wouldn't roll here yet. What is it? You said April what? April 24th? No, I wouldn't roll here. I would wait. Especially, you got to let it get to your break even, which is probably what, 152, 153. I mean, the question is Nebius breaking out to 160, 170 from this level? I don't know. But you're still under the strike. I would let a little bit more theta decay. I mean, next week, if we end up going red for whatever reason, Nebius probably breaks down a little bit, just like any other stock. So give a little bit more time. Sachin says Snowflake bulls are marking victory leaps on FinTwit as Palantir is down from 200 to 123. In the meantime, Snowflake is down from 280 to 121 and barely above its all-time high, down 70% from COVID. Yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be plenty of people that try to take the victory lap on Palantir being down. Palantir losing 123 right here. I mean, it is what it is. The stock was 6 a while ago, was up to 200. If you look at the comparisons between the other semiconductor or the other software stocks, obviously Palantir has outperformed, but it is ugly. There's no doubt about it. And this is what happens in some of these high beta names. I mean, you got to have the stomach to be able to be in it. It wasn't fun for the Nebius people going from 140 to 70. If you were like one of the OG Nebius, that probably was not exciting. Granted, that's where the opportunity was, and maybe that's the same for Palantir here. But this is the first time in a while Palantir is facing a real pullback. And that pullback is not because of the company. It's because of software. Some of it might be because of fundamentals, even though outside of valuation, I'm not sure what fundamentals could point to the sell-off. It has to be partly due to Anthropic being seen as the new replacement for every single software company. Which again, just sounds so ridiculous even as you say it. And that's where you're seeing this drawdown. I've gone from 39 to 140 to 70 to 147 on Nebius. That is conviction, baby. That is conviction. Yeah, it's not easy to ride something up 4x and then draw down 50% just to ride it back up another 50%. It's hard. Why do you read everything so fast? I naturally I'm a fast speaker, but also I've watched streams before where people are very slow with their words. And I think that the experience of people talk, you see what I'm saying? Like people talking slow is like, dude, get on with it. There's so much to talk about. There's a billion things going on. It's like, I don't think it would be fun for you guys if I was taking 50 seconds between every single word. 72.6 on BTC. See, I've conditioned you guys for lies. Amit, I almost shut you off after listening to that one sentence. There you go. That's your answer. Wait, now I found something you guys don't like. This is good. This is good ammo. I need ammo. I always need ammo. This is good. Now I know what ticks people off. I will be tucking this in my pocket, and when there's a day where you guys come at me too hard, I know exactly what to do. Exactly what to do. Palantir, she's losing. Well, we got to bounce off 122 at least. 124.30. What's your fave Max 7 right now? It's NVIDIA. NVIDIA. I get accused of talking fast as well. I'm just like, listen quicker. Dude, in debate, when I did debate in high school, we talked, it was like 500 words a minute. Like legitimately 500 words a minute. One day I'll show you guys my old debate videos. Not the ones where I'm talking like naturally because I have some of those, but like the ones where I'm like legit. It's called spreading, speed reading. The technical term is called spreading. And yeah, that's where I learned how to talk really fast. Okay, we're seeing some red candles come in. Nebia's chilling out a little bit. NVIDIA's still holding 187. The macro data, obviously not the best with the consumer confidence, but I don't think the market cares that much. Why not dip your toes in ServiceNow? I honestly just don't know enough about ServiceNow, dude. Like I don't think it deserves to be trading at these levels, just given the pure momentum down from 190. But if you ask me what does ServiceNow do, I don't know. Like, does anyone really know? Like, I still don't know what Salesforce does. Like, they provide service now. Like, I don't. So it's hard for me to, like, I'd buy Cloudflare over Service. At least I could kind of explain what Cloudflare does. And I feel like that stock is 11% down, dude. I feel like this company is just really important for the internet. But goodness. Citron shorting AAOI? Citron, let me pull them up. Wow. They're short. Is the stock down? AAOI is up 6%. That's a new all-time high. Not sure if this is going to squeeze Citron. Citron is not an AI bear. We think it's the anti-Lumentum. Okay, this is a very long thing, but they said it trades at 112 forward earnings, nearly 3 times peak bubble with NVIDIA, 31% gross margins, heavy CapEx, 1 customer, 0 pricing power. To justify 112, you need to NVIDIA-like margins. AAOI has commodity hardware margins that are 1 InnoLight price cut away from making their already imaginary path to profitability a permanent moving target. You know, I don't necessarily think he's wrong. I mean, from the research I've done on it as well, the numbers aren't, you're betting on a growth story. And if there's any level of slowdown in optics and more continuation of copter, that, you know, that could obviously be bad for these photonics plays. But like the momentum in this is not something I would short. Now, granted, the momentum might be the opportunity to short it. But who knows? Maybe the company just, maybe they keep executing and they get some more hyperscaler contracts that allows this to continue. Lunar, that's up 8% on the day. Citron also announced they're long Amazon. Yes, that's correct. It's not too surprising, though. Feels like most institutions are long Amazon. ServiceNow getting wrecked right here. Look at the AAOI just continuing to climb up even after this Citron short. Palantir's forward PE is below 100 for the first time in a while. There you go. I mean, it's taken a while to get below 100 on the forward price to earnings. Let's see if it settles out here. I mean, obviously, I think if software starts tracking back up, Palantir will go up. But software, there's no end in sight to this drawdown. It's just continuously ugly. Marvell, nice move, up 5%. Those 150 Nebius calls, maybe Nebius kind of slowing down right here, giving people a chance to breathe. 150 psychologically would be pretty massive as well. So not sure if the market's going to easily give it that. AMD as well. They didn't actually break 250. Got close, but didn't break it. Is next week a good time to sell puts on Nebius? So look, it's at, my answer would be no if you think the momentum is going to consolidate and give some of the money back. So like, you can make a lot of money selling puts in a bull market when a stock keeps going up and up and up because you don't get assigned on it. But if you think Nebius is what, up 70% this year, if it is only up, I don't know, 50%, which means there's a 20% retracement for whatever reason, which has happened many times on Nebius, then you're going to get assigned those shares at like 130, and you might not want them at 130 if the stock's at 115. So I would wait to see what the price action looks like over the next coming days on Nebius, because right now the bulls don't know if it's about to break out and just go straight to price discovery, and the bears don't know if this thing collapses because it's collapsed many times from these levels. However, it is breaking all-time highs, which means I think the bias is more towards the bulls here in terms of price discovery. Broadcom 371, Iren 39, CoreWeave looking for 100. Been a while. This thing went all the way to 69 back on March 30th. and their earnings kind of hit them as well. 100 resistance on CoreWeave it's only 2,000 shares. It's nothing. That would be very nice to see triple digits back on CoreWeave. Looks like CoreWeave's also kind of breaking out here after these two deals. And the market's forgiven the dilution, just like they forgave Nebius with the dilution, which is good to see. Okay, let's talk about that J. Powell Besant headline, because this thing is crazy. So Anthropic's new model was so good, apparently, or so concerning, that Besant and J. Powell had to come together to talk about the implications of what this model could be on the broader economy.
Powell called an emergency meeting this week with the CEO of America's largest banks to discuss the cyber security risks created by the latest AI model from Anthropic, sources told CNBC. The CEOs, including BofA's Brian Moynihan and Goldman Sachs' David Solomon, were in DC anyway for a financial services forum board meeting on Tuesday when they got summoned to Treasury headquarters, I'm told. The main message, as I understand it, banks were told to prepare for the cyber risks created by Anthropic's Mythos model. Now, as a reminder, on Tuesday, Anthropic announced a preview of its latest AI model, Claude Mythos, in a limited capacity due to concerns that hackers could exploit its capabilities. Mythos has already found thousands of high-severity vulnerabilities across the corporate world, including some in, quote, every major operating system and web browser, according to Anthropic. So corporations, including JP Morgan Chase, Apple, Google, and NVIDIA were among the initial launch partners for the cybersecurity initiative called Project Glasswing.
This is the best marketing for Anthropic. Their model is so important for cybersecurity that Powell and the Treasury Secretary had to get involved in an emergency meeting. CoreWeave, there you go. You got 100 to talk about this thing. Like, I mean, everywhere you look, Anthropic is just screaming as like the next big thing as they continue to get momentum. NVIDIA finally getting a breakout to 187.50. 187.50. Asian nations push U.S. to extend sanctions waiver on Russian oil. Okay, so obviously the lack of oil supply is starting to hit some of these Asian countries that have been stuck with, in some cases, rationing oil, which is not the best. U.S. Treasury Department has allowed purchase of some Russian oil since mid-March through a 30-day sanctions waiver that expires on April 11th. Hopefully, if we get a deal by that time, then we're not going to have to keep buying Russian oil. But, you know, as of now, Putin is probably liking this. NVIDIA right there, 187.50. CoreWeave at 100. So CoreWeave and Nebius getting a nice breakout. Iran also, I mean, still up 6% today. So even if it's just following CoreWeave and Nebius, they're all three trying to get some more momentum. And then AMD still at 246. SanDisk going green. And Micron, I still don't get why that's red today, but that's red. Palo Alto, 8%. You cannot tell me that Palo Alto deserves to be down 18% in 2 days. Like, for what? What? Like, how? It's, I mean, this is not making sense. 153. Where's Crowd? Crowd's down 7%. Yeah, this feels aggressive for no reason. And the thing is, when things get this aggressive, they feel like buy the dips. Now, obviously, they're also falling knives right here, but this level of sell-off, it does not feel warranted. You can understand that 3, 4, 5% for the week, 20%, 25% for the week. The business changed by 25% since Monday. Like, Anthropic's going to take 25% of their market share. It doesn't feel that realistic. Salesforce, 165, down 3%. Bitcoin at least getting a bid at 73, so some risk on momentum. We haven't seen 73 in a minute on Bitcoin. I guess people are selling software to buy crypto. Maybe that's happening as well. HIMS is still down 2%. Claude looking like it's taking a lot of these different names. AAOI up 10%. Yeah, that's wrecking. I mean, honestly, dude, AAOI is retail. If anything, I think Citron's going to inspire retail to to squeeze the crap out of them. AAOI is not really institutional investors. A lot of it's retail. So they might just be happy that they have a villain now to go against. Yeah, it's weird that Hood's not getting a bid on the crypto move. I don't know. I mean, I know their March numbers weren't amazing, but you're not getting any algo love on Hood. You're barely getting it on Reddit. Cloudflare is now down 12.7%. Like, is software not going to bottom until Anthropic goes public? Is that what the market's waiting for at this point? Because this feels a little dumb. Nebius strikes at 200, paying you $3.35. Dude, I might sell those. I don't have any covered calls on it. I might sell 200 for the 15th of May, which is another $50 from you. You're paying you $3.35. I might sell those, dude. Like that's gotta be 200 in a month. And if it goes to 200 and I have to sell my shares at 200, I'm not really gonna be too upset about that. Goodness, dude. These call premiums on some of the high flyers. SPY 681. I mean, Nvidia's not going to get you those types of premiums. Amazon 239. Are we getting ready for 240? Are we getting ready for 240 Amazon? I'll check some of the option volume today as well. 240 resistance is still pretty heavy. 240 is 145,000 shares. 145,000 shares. Okay, let's look at some of the option volume today. What can we pull up? I am curious where this stuff is going right now. By the way, yesterday when the market close ended abruptly, I don't know what happened. It wasn't my internet. It was, I don't know what it was. I was in the middle of talking about Interstellar though, comparing it to Project Hail Mary, and then the stream just shut off. So I don't know why that happened, but I guess I can't say Interstellar is a better movie. 681.35 on the S&P. AMD's up 4%. Nvidia trying to get that 188 level. Bitcoin 72.9. Why would Anthropic models never improve again after they go public? Yeah, no, it's a fair point. It's the idea of there needs to be a terminal value assigned to Anthropic for the market to have an understanding of these software companies. Because right now it's this like abstract private market perception that Anthropic's going to take over the world. If they go public and you actually get a floor to the valuation, then maybe it's a better comparison against a Snowflake or a CrowdStrike when they have to report public numbers, etc. If anything, who knows? Maybe the software names get hit even more when they go public. But do we really think Salesforce, ServiceNow, Adobe, Intuit, these massive companies, Palantir, are going out of business because of Anthropic? Because if they are, Anthropic's going to be a, $10, $15 trillion company in the next couple of years, if that's what's happening. But that sounds stupid because it probably is stupid. Bloom, by the way, 167. Look at that, 4%. Which means the growth rates might slow down for some of those legacy companies. Don't get me wrong. Lemonade down 2%, but them being completely eliminated. Again, I'm not saying Salesforce is a great buy. I'm just saying I don't think Salesforce deserves to be down 70%. Which means, hopefully the bottom is closer than not. And definitely not companies like a Palantir or CrowdStrike that are accelerating growth and have shown zero signs of slowing down over the past couple of years. AMD still at 246. A lot of YouTube streams went down last night. Okay, so then maybe it was a YouTube issue. It wasn't me. Yeah, it was weird. It just like randomly happened. People in the comments were like, "You hung up on us." I was like, I wasn't trying to hang up. I wasn't trying to hang up. I was trying to talk about Interstellar. We got hit. Rubrik down 7. Can Palantir move higher if all of SaaS is moving down? I don't know. Like at this point, it has for the past year. Palantir's like had a multiple that is fundamentally differentiated from the other SaaS companies. The problem is if all of SaaS is getting hit, fear and greed at 39, then I guess Palantir is a casualty in that as well. The VIX, by the way, continuing to go down. VIX right here is down 3%, 1887. Oil, where are we at? On crude, 97.70. So that one's still flat on the day, which is good. I listen to most people at 1.5, but it is hard with the mid. I can only do 1.25. There was someone who sent me a video the other day saying he listens to me at 2.5 or something. NVIDIA, 188. There you go. And I sounded crazy. And I'm like, bro, there's no way you actually do this. This has got to be a joke. It was like, nope, I listen to you every day at this level. I'm like, that's crazy. I never listen to YouTube videos more than regular speed. Like, I never speed things up. I wish you could watch shows in 1.5. Because I end up pressing the 10-second skip button on Netflix so much. Like, they should just speed up shows. Like, a 40-minute show should really be like a 31-minute show. Rocket Lab, 6864. 2.85%. That's green. Wow, everyone's saying 1.5. That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. Okay, where's 190 resistance for Mr. NVIDIA? Let's talk about the 190s. This 180 stuff is getting boring. 190 resistance for, wow, okay. Whoever has 463,000 shares can help us out a little bit. But if you don't, we might be stuck here for a little bit. You speed up information material, but speeding up entertainment seems silly. That's fair. That's true. The problem with TV shows and movies is there's too much talking, bro. Like, I want to get to the actual part with the plot. Like, I don't want to listen to all the character development, even though I know that's important. Like, I want to see. That's why I hated Billions. Like, they're just talking all the time. I'm like, dude, I want to see the guy like short a company and like have stuff happen. I don't want to see him talk to someone for 30 minutes of the show and develop his character. Marvell still moving. Credo as well. Credo, Arista, A-Lab. SoFi flipped green. Nice to see. Apple flipped green as well. You're seeing more and more excitement. Palantir. Oh, wow. That's a... Where did that come from? 123 to 127? What? What did Trump say? Did Trump say something about Palantir? Where did that come from? What? Is that on all software? Hold on. IGV. IGV, a little bit of green. Adobe. No, Adobe. Hold on. A little bit on Adobe. Salesforce is not seeing that same type of, well, 165 to 166, maybe. Whoa, Palantir, what is that, bro? 123 to 128.90? Did Trump tweet about Palantir? No fucking way in hell. I'm sorry, I just cursed that hard. No way. Oh my goodness. No way. Trump, Palantir has proven to have great war-fighting capabilities and equipment. Just ask our enemies. There's no way this is happening. There's no way. This can't be happening. This is, oh my goodness. Davis, what is happening, bro? Well, thanks, Donnie T. We needed that one. We need. This is absolutely crazy. He typed out the ticker. Okay. He got a call from somebody. He typed out the ticker. I can't believe this just happened. Like, I can't believe this just. I can't believe this just happened. I think dude, he got a call. He got a call. Like, look, I know it looks shady. I don't want to undermine how shady it looks. I get it. But I also have a lot of money in this fucking company, dude. So I kind of appreciate it. Yes, it looks bad. I'm not going to say it doesn't look bad. But it was hurting today. It was really hurting after a 10% drop yesterday. Oh my. That's who gave him the call, dude. Holy freaking crap. This is unbelievable. Now, the question is, does this move even hold? But the president of the United States of America just tweeted Palantir's ticker and said they have the best military fighting capabilities and equipment. 127.73. My goodness. Yeah, we got to see if it holds. Peter made the call. Somebody made the call, dude. There is no way in hell Trump tweets this without getting a call from somebody. Which, again, like, it's bad, dude. Like, obviously, like, putting my emotions aside around the company, I'm laughing because I can't believe that happened. Doesn't look good, but the point is, Trump has been known to pump a bunch of things, and today he chooses to pump Palantir. And you can't tell me he didn't see their stock and someone made a phone call and said, "Hey, Trump, we need some help." Yeah, he basically said buy Palantir. He put their ticker, guy. He put PLTR. This is like the volume's going crazy on this right now. 50 million, 42 million shares. Rest of the market, okay, so that's why we didn't see that on Adobe and Salesforce and IGV. The rest of those are still pretty stuck. They did not make a big move up. Palantir's the only one. It's still red on the day. That's how ugly today was, that even after that, we're still red. Nebius 147, SPY 681, NVIDIA 188. Unfreaking believable, dude. Can he pump SoFi now? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Baron had to. Dude, is Baron watching the stream? Baron had to make the call, bro. Baron definitely had bought calls at 130. Saw it go to 122 today. He was like, come on, bro. We need to fix this shit. Can you do Hood next? Vlad has great hair. I really love the Trump accounts. And put the little ticker symbol in there. We would deeply appreciate it. Dude, Michael Burry, talk about being pissed. If we flip green, Michael Burry is going to have to reckon with the fact that the president of the United States is now incentivized to not let this stock go down. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That tweet is Trump saying, I am trying to keep Palantir up. NVIDIA pushing for 189. Pushing for one. And by the way, my sister appreciates it as well. I bought Palantir for my sister yesterday as well. Oh my gosh. 129, $1 away from flipping green. Absolute cinema. Abso-freaking-lute cinema. CoreWeave's up 12. SPY still moving. Nebius doing well. The funny thing about this is Burry has been manipulating the crap out of Palantir as well, which is why you can't put out public information the way that he does about Palantir and then delete it a day later. You can't, it's not illegal, but it's obviously manipulative because whatever price action happens, he doesn't want it to be attributed to him because theoretically the SEC could look into, so he deletes it. And he did that this week. So if Burry's going to manipulate to the downside, well, the leader of the free world is ready to manipulate to the upside. Palantir has proven to have great warfighting capabilities and equipment. Just ask our enemies. Dude, he put the ticker symbol. He put the ticker. The question is, can we hold it? This is just, I've been covering this company for 5 years. I have never never seen something like this ever. Well, there you go. Let's see if we flip green, but definitely a rebound from those lows at 122. Grab right there. That's green. ASTS up 7. Alpha's up 2. Reddit's up 2. Meta's up 1. I wonder if we'll get the Bloomberg or CNBC coverage on this and how they would react. But that's what you got from Donnie T. Consumer sentiment again came in lower today, as that one is still down. Trump thinks Palantir provides equipment. Well, equipment in the context of software, I guess you could say, even if it's not hardware, it is equipment. But I mean, if he said software, it would have been more in line with what Palantir does. It's just the fact that he posted that is the amazing part. Robinhood back up to 70. Robinhood finally catching a bid. Amazon, this is the fight for 240. It got to 239.74. This is the fight. Burry tweeted about it. Let me check. What did Burry say? Burry said Karp is calling his panic attack hotline. You know, I don't know if Karp made the call, but someone made the call. I mean, there is no way in hell that Trump does this by himself. Obviously, someone made the call. The question is who? And I don't know who. Iran 40, 8% move. Nebius, is she going for 150? She is trying for 150 again. 148 on Nebesis. Iran at 40. CoreWeave 12%. CoreWeave 14%, baby. It is an amazing day for the neoclouds. Ironically, Oracle can't catch a bid, but you're getting some green. Trump, I am announcing today we are replacing the U.S. Treasury with Robinhood. Great time to buy. Could you imagine? He's never done that. He's done this for individual tickers, but it's usually like something his son is invested in or DJT. He's never done it for a large-scale company like Palantir. And today he did it. Wow, that's incredible. He needs to do it for IGV. He needs to do it for software. Trump needs to be like, I really like software. Software is important. It's valuable. Cloudflare is down 15%, dude. This is not real. And the fear on the software names continue to go down is, if it wasn't for that Trump tweet, Palantir would be probably pushing below 120 right now. Literally, if it wasn't for that tweet, I mean, software is just, I don't know where the end of it is. I mean, these names are down literally 30%. And Cloudflare was down 11% yesterday. It's down 15% today. The 27% drawdown in 2 days. Palantir, just by proxy, being a software name, would get wrecked with that. And so we really got to see if this can hold. S&P 681. Oh, I forgot. That's a great point. Trump was literally with Tesla in the front of the White House talking about buy the car. Yeah, I forgot. That happened so long ago. I forgot that Tesla was... I mean, that's when Elon was getting all the pushback from the EV credit going away, and Trump was telling people to buy a Tesla. So he definitely has a history of doing this. Bitcoin, 72.9. That's a good point. Palantir is also helping Vance through the fraud task force. That is fair. Amir, what's up, man? Palantir and FICO are seeing some insane, unjustified sell-offs here. I agree. Amir has done a phenomenal job in his approach to valuations. I will link his YouTube channel right here if people want to check him out. But he's also valued Palantir based on the new growth rates that can be assumed given the last quarter we got. And fair value is definitely above 125. You got to assume the growth will continue, but if it does, it's not the most expensive. And the market's thinking Anthropic will stop those growth rates, which maybe it does. But if it doesn't, then this is an unjustified sell-off. The question is going to be how ugly does it get? Amazon right there, 239. Amazon right there is at $239 here. Trump hates Anthropic. That's fair, especially given the Department of War issues that he's had with them. Palantir is going back down. We got to see if it can hold, man. I mean, it was a momentary pump. Will this actually hold? If we even settle above 125 today, I'll be happy, to be honest, because the way it looked like is we were going to like 115, given how ugly it was getting. Talk about freaking last minute save by DJT. Is that a real tweet? That is a real tweet. I could not believe it either. Yeah, 100 on the charts is the next. Yeah, I mean, Jason will tell you the same. 100 is the next stop if we lose 120, 125. And we did, technically, for a couple minutes. Yeah, this is pretty ugly. I wonder who made the call. I wonder who made the call. Someone had to step into the Oval and say, can you please just give us a little tweet right now? Rocket Lab back to 69, getting some love. Meta 631, Google 318. Counter pump was all short covering. It'll take a lot to change the anti-software narrative, and it won't be Trump. I agree with that, Dove. I agree. I mean, it could have been short covering based on the momentum of the tweet, but I do agree with you. The anti-software narrative is bad. And I mean, you're going to get a lot of people to buy anything if Trump tweets about it. But the question is, will the market structurally be okay with the paradigm for software in an AI-driven world? And right now, we don't freaking know. Wow, what a Friday. Did not expect that. Did not expect that at all. But that is what we got, folks. That is what we got. Do you have any doubts on Palantir's earnings? No. I have a doubt on how the market will value their earnings. I do not have an actual doubt on the earnings. The earnings, I think, are going to be, pretty damn strong. Hassett was on this morning. Inflation. Let's see what he had to say to justify some of the CPI numbers.
3.3% rise in consumer prices in the last 12 months. That's a fairly sharp increase. However, I'm sure you're going to find some comfort in the core rate of inflation, which went up only 0.2% in March.
Right.
So you can take that as a good sign, right?
Right. Well, one of the things that would have been a warning sign would have been that what we believe is a temporary energy disruption would feed through to core, driving up prices of everything. And I think that, in fact, the 0.2% core number for the month that you mentioned is actually rounded up to 0.2, which is pretty unusual. It was 0.19 something. And the thing that, when I went through the details, that really I found gratifying for White House staff who've been working so hard on affordability is that there are so many price reductions that are directly related to things that we've been working on, policies we've been pursuing. So, for example, year-over-year egg prices are down 44%.
Okay, we got the Trump coverage. We'll go back to Hassett in a second, but we got the Trump coverage. Let's see what people are thinking here.
Get invested. Join the club.
Posting about Palantir saying, quote, Palantir Technologies has proven to have great war fighting capabilities and equipment. Just ask our enemies. I did speak to the CEO, Alex Karp, last month and asked him about how the company's products are being used in this war with Iran.
The fact that you can now target more precisely, more accurately, more quickly, and that you, meaning America, can do these things, organize the total power of our fleet and all of our resources and bring it to bear against adversaries and enemies has shifted the way in which war is fought. And I have read that Palantir's Project Maven is the core backbone of that. And then I've also read that all the allies, Arab and non-Arab in the Middle East, may or may not be users of our platform as well, and that's expanding rapidly.
He's, of course, referring to Project Maven, their defense software that is used to target specific individuals on sites as this war continues between the U.S. and Iran, Carl. The stock, even though they've seen a pretty big jump, not only in their government business, but commercial, which is up 127% year over year based on their last quarterly report, the stock is down about 30% this year, largely due to this whole story around Anthropic and displacement fears.
6-week low yesterday, as you said, 30% for the year. It's actually, last 3 days, it's down almost 15%. And we should just take a moment to say how remarkable it is that the president of the United States comes out and essentially issues a buy rating on a troubled name.
Really interesting. We know this company, specifically Alex Karp, has been supportive of President Trump. So interesting to see. Clearly, I'm curious what the conversation was between the two that led to this post. Yeah. The stock off the worst levels of the day. All right, still to come on the show, a big fall off the highs for.
I mean, even they can't believe it, dude. This is just, it's quite incredible. You need buyer sentiment to come in here on Palantir to flip this narrative. Obviously, the software stuff is tough, but let's say the buyers step in, they buy off the Trump pump, and then the paradigm on software kind of shifts because maybe the market wakes up just like they did in late February and says, okay, software is not going to be dead. I mean, I think you see a really big rally, but there's two big ifs that are involved in that. Number one, the Trump sentiment holds, and then number two, the software narrative changes. And right now, it doesn't look like software is really bottomed, given how CrowdStrike down 7 today. I mean, it's just a bloodbath of a sell-off right here. And then Hassett, when he was talking about inflation, SMH up 2%. I mean, the same argument, right? It's a one-time temporary thing because of all the other things the administration has done, which to their credit, they have done to reduce inflation. But that oil increase is what exacerbated it. And if that goes down, then maybe inflation also comes down. SoFi at 1633. Where is Nebius? Nebius is toying with 150 right here. It is toying with 150. Why is Amcor up? Broadcom. Amcor is one of the key packaging suppliers for Broadcom. So now Amcor in general is, I mean, it's not a super expensive name, but its re-rating depends on revenue growth. And if Broadcom just signed a massive deal with Anthropic and Google, then yeah, Amcor is definitely going to benefit off that. CoreWeave 14% at 105. Is a close under 125 bad for Palantir? Yes. We really don't want to see that. And we were headed there probably if we didn't have that tweet. This is still crazy, dude. This is still crazy. CoreWeave pump, Nebius pump, Iran pump, S&P still holding on. A ceasefire in Lebanon and the release of Iran's blocked assets prior to the commencement of negotiations. These two matters must be filled before negotiations begin, as per the Iranian parliament. Okay, JD is going to have to figure out how to get them to still come to the table. Nebius, are we doing 150? Are we doing it? Nebius. Okay, I mean, it touched 149.80. Yeah, but 70,000 shares of resistance right there. To see if we can get it. Mitt told the president to post it. I think I was late to even seeing it because I was talking about something. And then you guys kept spamming Palantir. And I was like, okay, why are we spamming it? We know it's down on the day, but I guess I guess it wasn't going to be down that much anymore. My goodness, dude. This is incredible. Man, Jose, thank you for getting me into Nebius and CoreWeave. Yeah, Jose, Nebius and CoreWeave are his top two neoclouds. CoreWeave is his number one. I did a deep dive on Nebius at 130, again on my Substack. Did not buy at 130. Bought after it crashed. And sold some of the position at 105. I don't know, dude. 150 feels aggressive, but then again, they are the most diversified neo cloud. So I think I let the rest ride. Like, it is what it is. If you have a winner, sometimes maybe you let it ride. Although those $200 covered calls from May are sounding pretty juicy, dude. $3 a premium, that's crazy. ASTS, that's up 4. Do not be greedy. You know, that's a that's a great point. Sometimes you got to take the easy win. But also, it's like, if my average is 97 and Nebius goes back to 120, am I going to be that upset? Not really. If anything, you know, if the business improves, it might be a better buying opportunity. The question is, are they going to dilute here? And again, I don't think they will, but if they do, things going down, which is the risk. Now, they might really think about it because that's a lot of money they could raise, and you never know. Whenever your stock is up, you got to take advantage of it. But if it runs to like 170 and then they dilute, it would be even better. So we're going to have to see. And the short float still could, you know, create that pain. Marvell testing the all-time highs. Marvell 128 here. They have an open ATM for 1.5 billion. I didn't know that. Oh my. 1.5 billion open ATM. Iran has an open ATM for 6 billion, which they might have started to use. Huh. 1.5 billion though, I don't think that would tank the stock. I mean, that would probably hurt a little bit. 4 or 5 billion is where you get that like 130 to 90 drawdown that we saw back in March. Nvidia 188.58. They said they will only use it for emergencies. What do you mean by emergency? Because, I mean, if you get a big deal, there might be an emergency where you have to raise a lot more money to buy GPUs, right? I mean, theoretically, if a company says that, like, to me, that screams we're waiting for a higher stock price. Like, what do you mean by emergency? Like, what, they're going to be risk of going bankrupt and they need to raise, like, they wouldn't want to do it if the stock falls 80%. Like, that would just make the stock fall more. Like, you dilute when the stock goes up. But again, even if they use 1.5, I don't think that's really going to, you know, crush their momentum as heavily. Adobe still down 225. 1.5 still down right here. ATM for 25 million shares, not an open ATM. Okay, so that's a. You guys are confusing me with all the. See, the neo clouds have the problem is their business models are so rooted in dilution. Same thing with CoreWeave yesterday. The point is they can dilute. The goal is for that dilution to not have that much of an impact. And for Nebius, I mean, even for CoreWeave, dude, they diluted by 3 billion yesterday. The stock's up 15%. It's like no one cares. So it's like the dilution is a temporary hit against price action, which is painful, but it should not be the defining reason that the company doesn't move on. Which I guess is, you know, the thesis on Nebius, CoreWeave, and AI. This is a generational buying opportunity for software. Maybe. Yeah, CoreWeave up to 3.5. Well, today would be the right day to do it because they just had that Anthropic headline, right? Usually you dilute on the days where it's like amazing for the price. Investing in a neo cloud, you expect dilution. If they dilute, usually it means it's backed by a deal. Generational back holding for software. Remember that guy that sold CoreWeave yesterday morning? What did someone sell? I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. Someone was in the chat who sold CoreWeave. There was a bunch of people. I asked on the market close on Tuesday. A bunch of people said they sold Nebius. It was like at 118, 125-ish. I mean, I think, you know, everyone is surprised by how much momentum is in these names, given these names were the biggest losers back in March. But they also had I mean, CoreWeave was under $70, dude, from a high of 130. It's hard for people to regain conviction when it gets that ugly. Rocklab 68. Is NVIDIA about to get 189? NVIDIA very close. Let me check resistance there. Burry deleted his tweet again. Let me check. Did he actually? Yep, deleted his tweet again. Dude, this guy is either he's bipolar, but it's kind of bad to have a 2 million follower account and be bipolar and tweet this stuff, because then it really just looks like manipulation. Or he's super afraid of the SEC. I don't know what's going on with him. Deleting stuff, yeah, it's weird. Like, if you make a typo or something, I get it, but like doing it for the hell of it is just weird. Where is NVIDIA? 189. We're 20 cents away. 189 resistance, 133,000 shares. 133,000 shares on NVIDIA. He tweeted, Carp called his panic hotline. That's what he tweeted. Credo up 12. Oh, yeah, sorry. CoreWeave hit 187 at the highs. Dude, 187 to 67 was the drawdown on CoreWeave. Nebius was 141 to around 68, 69, I think, just below 70. And then Iran was 80 to 29. And so all three of these holding on to their momentum, I think, and obviously outperforming a lot of the other AI names, is just the market's bet that data centers is a good place to invest in. Oracle finally flipping green on the day. That's nice to see. How about CRM? Not getting any love. Adobe, still not getting any love. It would be nice to see those names flip green, because that would help Palantir as well. Just if everything in the software space starts spiking up. Amazon still fighting with 230 or 240. ServiceNow under 83. My goodness, dude. Well, let's see. Let's see if this can flip. Let's see if this can flip. A-Lab's up 12%. 147. Palantir back to 128, man. We are $2 away from flipping green. And if we would, that would be a huge shift in momentum. Maybe not for the week, but at least for the day. And might put a stop to the short-term bleeding. Micron just flipped green as well. 189, there you go. Someone just bought 150,000 shares of NVIDIA. Whoever bought it, thank you. 189. Let's see if 190 is on the cards today. Let's see. Nebius is going to go red today. I don't think they're going to give away a 9% move. Maybe they don't crack 150, but I think they will hold on to this. IGV, small little bounce. CoreWeave still 14. Laura says I touched it. Thank you, Laura. We appreciate it. This is the one name I think a lot of people bought the dip on, NVIDIA. I asked you guys a couple days ago, and like 80% of you said that you have been buying the dip on this. That has been the number one name I've been buying all year as well. Question is, can we get a break? If we get an actual deal announced, maybe that's where you start to see a lot more fun in terms of the whole market, but we're going to actually to officially come through. Let's get an update on CPI from this morning, and we'll keep going.
Is the 0.2% increase in the core, so not really showing up, at least yet, in there. 3.3, a big increase there for the year-over-year rate, was 2.4%. The core 2.6 up just a tick. Now, the list of where it showed up, or the energy prices showed up in the CPI, is actually a short list, and that is the good news there. Gasoline, though, up 21%. That's only half of the actual increase in gasoline prices. So more to come there. Airline fares up 2.7%, probably more to come there as well. Prices for food and core goods will take 3 to 6 months, says Pantheon, to respond to the recent surge in energy prices. And any price increases related to shortages of goods are at least 6 months away, given inventory and shipping lag. So looking at the core rate, it was very subdued. 0 on food. Core goods up 0.1%. A pop in apparel could be some residual tariff effects in there, but used prices declining and shelter relatively calm at 0.3%. That could increase in coming months because of some statistical issues related to the shutdown of the government. Subdued core inflation would normally prompt the market to put greater odds on an increase in the odds for rate cuts. But with the fear of more inflation to come and eventually boosting the core, markets can put just a 25% probability on a rate cut this year from the Fed. Fed rhetoric could turn more hawkish in the coming months, but only a surge in core prices and an increase in inflation expectations would probably lead to a rate hike. For now, it's a hold for the Fed, and we'll wait to hear what they have to say about what's been happening with inflation. Guys?
Steve, we've been talking all morning long about real incomes, wages up 3.5, and now inflation 3.3. It's getting tight.
Well, actually, for whatever reason, a difference there. The actual real earnings, Carl, were down 0.9% from what I saw, and that differential is something that, look, over a short period of time is not a big deal. What we have with consumers tend to use things to paper over either loans or credit cards or shifting their spending. And that's really the concern, I think, when it comes to retailers. We did see an increase in prices for eating out. That could be an area that takes a hit.
In general, I agree. Core CPI wasn't as bad as what people thought it would be, which means if you get oil to come down, a lot of this is going to be solved by itself. And I think the markets understand that, which is why we've seen at least broad index rally that we've seen. Intel, by the way, 63, AMD 248, Oracle finally flipping green. I think the neocloud's going this green. It forced Oracle to go green as well. It just can't stay this low if you're seeing this momentum. S&P at 681. So many stocks either very green or very red. Feels like big ETF sector rotations, 100%. Today is Friday, so you might be seeing a little bit of that as well. But obviously the sector that's going to hit the most is software. What do you think about Zeta's dip? I think it's unwarranted. I don't think Anthropic's killing Zeta. Pull up any of the Zeta numbers. The Zeta numbers are phenomenal for the market cap and the price of sales that it's trading at and the profitability inflection that we're seeing. No, I don't think it deserves to be down. But I also don't think CrowdStrike, which is a much more mature company, deserves to be down 17% in 2 days. Like it just feels a bit too harsh for something that's not necessarily gonna take over the entire industry. Amazon, we just got 240. We just got it. There you go. We just got it here. Finally, 240 for the first time in, I think, how long? I think it's been a couple months, right? Amazon. Yeah, February 3rd. Last time we had 240. February 3rd, 240 to 196 on earnings. Right back to 240. I know this one is another one that a lot of people in retail are leveraged. And if we see Amazon move, we should see NVIDIA and the other ones move with it. NVIDIA, let's see if 190 is possible here. It's really nice to see Amazon get this move, dude. It's been a while that Amazon was stuck at 208, 207. I mean, they're accelerating AWS. It's like that hasn't mattered for the past month because of the war, but like, it's a big deal. They're accelerating AWS. The first time in 3 years. Like, how does the street just think that's not relevant? Oh, she's moving now. 240.3. She's moving. If Microsoft catches up here as well, Microsoft's still red. Then you'll have Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, and Meta making a move. Yeah, Broadcom also got a big bounce. Will Hood and Rubrik come back? Hood is stuck in fintech, which is dead right now. Rubrik is stuck in software, which is dead. So, look, the problem with some of these names that people are in, including myself, is that they are in a sector that the market does not feel good about right now. The bright side to that is it creates a phenomenal opportunity. If you think you know more about the company than the market knows about the sector, you have to be selective. That's the art of stock picking. And you buy and you hold on, which is what a lot of the Nebius people did when the neoclouds were out of favor for the past 5 months, right? Same thing with CoreWeave. It's what people did last year when a lot of the consumer discretionary brands were out of favor. And then you had your Elfs, your Nikes that actually did make a run. I know this year they've been bad, but last year when everyone was focused on tech, those were undervalued and they ended up, Nike ended up going from like 50 to 80 at one point before it ended up crashing. So like either you're in the right name in a sector that's discounted, Figma down 5%, and you'll get the benefit. VG, when no one cared about natural gas, right? That was the opportunity. But if the sectors, in this case, fintech and SaaS, continue to be discounted, it's just going to be a lot of holding. Oracle going green. And then the question becomes, okay, do you sell your Rubrik at 45 and take a 50% loss to buy Nebius at 150? And usually that's just like, it doesn't usually work out that way, that you sell the bottom of something and buy the top of something. Now, you don't know if this is the top of Nebius. You don't know if it's the bottom of Rubrik. But given the price action, one's up 50%, one's down 50%. To make the switch, maybe it continues in that same direction and it's the right switch. But more times than not, like down 50% means you get a little breather. Up 50% means you also get a little breather. And doing the switch right here, right now, ends up not working out. Unless Anthropic literally has taken over the world and it's the right thing to be inside AI over software. But and again, SoFi, right? Like interest rates were likely not getting cuts this year. So that kind of hurts the thesis pretty badly. Do you completely sell SoFi and buy Broadcom? I'm not sure, given how far down it is. Did Trump tweet about Palantir? Yes, he did. It's as crazy as you think it is, but yes. Gotham, thanks for the $10 super chat. Does anyone think Lemonade will kill it in the next earnings report? I do not know that much about Lemonade's business. I do know that there's a massive, massive retail following around it. It did pump up to 99. And then I don't even know why it really crashed. I guess high beta growth. I know they're not profitable. I never loved the thesis on Lemonade. People just pitch it as AI insurance. I think that's too small of a thesis for me. But nonetheless, there are lots of people that believe in this. But once again, is this the sector that the market cares about going into earnings? AI-powered insurance, that would give it a bigger move. Amit, Amazon goes higher and you're checking NVIDIA, but Amazon uses their own chip to run their own AI stack. So I don't think NVIDIA's demand gets commoditized by the hyperscalers building their own chips. At this point, I am starting to become more and more convinced that the TAM is just 100x what we think it is. And so Amazon making their own chips is not going to slow demand for NVIDIA. Same thing with Google with TPUs, same thing with Broadcom with custom ASICs. And maybe I'm wrong, and but the demand is so vast at this point that NVIDIA is going to be okay. They don't need every single hyperscaler to keep buying at the same level that they were. They're finding many, many new opportunities to grow. So look, that is always a risk to NVIDIA. Obviously, it's the most valuable company in the world, but I don't think Amazon eats their lunch. NVIDIA's AI pilled. Tanner, you're the one who got me into this. Tanner is the one who got me into NVIDIA. It was literally January of last year. He got me in a week before DeepSeek. So thanks, Tanner. That first purchase definitely was fun. My first purchase was 140 and then it dropped to 90. But, given I made the first purchase at 140 because of him, not literally because of him, but, he said, take a deeper look at NVIDIA. That's when it drove me down the rabbit hole. And then DeepSeek is when I actually started buying more of it. And now we're here. And now Perplexity is doing $500 million of revenue in a year. after they were rumored to be doing 100. Like 5xing revenue in a few months is pretty crazy. Oracle still down. Yeah, Steve and I were talking about Oracle. I like it here. I bought some of the retirement account around 142. I like it here. This thing does not deserve to. I mean, if the neoclouds are jumping the way they're jumping, and the RPO is still going to be pretty strong for Oracle, their credit default swaps, I think, have peaked. I think it's been discounted enough. So I really don't hate it here. Palantir 128, still fighting for that 130. Crazy that a company like Anthropic managed to wipe out a few $1 trillion in market cap. Yeah, and again, it doesn't feel real, which is why I think that $1 trillion in market cap probably comes back. If not, then it has to go to Anthropic. So Anthropic should be worth a couple trillion, right? If they're like, if Anthropic is the reason, and I know it's not literally the reason, I get it. Like the argument is just AI is so powerful, but that value has to go somewhere, right? You can't say Anthropic's not the reason. It's the sort of abstraction of AI commoditizing software, because okay, that software spend is going to happen from somewhere, and even if it turns into agent spend instead of SaaS spend, it has to go somewhere. So it's either going to go to Anthropic or OpenAI, right? Or maybe Amazon, Google, but that ends up going back to Anthropic and OpenAI in terms of the API calls. So like theoretically, it will go back to Anthropic, and that's at least that's what the market's implying here. And if it's not going to go back to Anthropic, then why is Cloudflare down 13%? Like it's probably going to stay in Cloudflare. Or that it should go to NVIDIA, but NVIDIA is not getting some crazy, crazy multiple. NVIDIA is still very reasonable, even though it looks like it wants to break 190. That's where the whole thing is just very, very confusing. By the way, AAOI 150, Citron is getting hit pretty hard on this short. Amazon at 5 trillion or NVIDIA at 9 trillion first, roughly doubles for both. That is a hard question. It's actually a hard question. That's actually, I'll do a poll on that. That's actually really hard. It's not that oh man, I can't even give you what my gut would say. I'm not sure. Okay, which one happens first? Amazon 5 trillion, NVIDIA. Look, my headline reaction would be NVIDIA, because Amazon's margins, I don't know if they're going to be good enough for the stock to double anytime soon, whereas NVIDIA's growth is accelerating. And I know 9 trillion sounds crazy, but again, if Anthropic's going to be worth 3 or 4 trillion, NVIDIA's got to get closer to that $10 trillion valuation. And Anthropic's going to go public at least $1 trillion, get bid up to maybe 1.5, 2 if they keep growing at this rate. So yeah, I think it's NVIDIA, even though the law of large numbers might end up making it harder for it to be NVIDIA. Now, if Amazon increases their margins quicker than expected, then free cash flow and the multiple you put on that is probably going to get you in an easier way to get to 5 trillion. But I think it's like a 5-year story for margins to improve. A lot of that will be based on robotics, and that's not happening right now. Yeah, Amazon's still cash flow negative, and NVIDIA's doing hundreds of billions of free cash flow, you know? So that might be a little different. Tanner, what would you pick? I feel like, Tanner, you would pick NVIDIA too, even though we all love Microsoft. Chef Mike, thanks for the super chat. I don't see how Microsoft isn't screaming buy here. I'm buying. I do not think you are wrong for saying it's a screaming buy. There is some software issues with Microsoft that feel very unwarranted to have the stock down this much. I agree. I have zero problem with thinking Microsoft. I mean, Microsoft's probably the #1 IGV buy on the dip, just given the quality of company it is and the risk reward you're getting. Also, you know, if Nadella shows any level of real Copilot growth, Microsoft's going up, because it seems like that's the reason why it got hit. If he just like changes the narrative on that plus Azure growth, we should be okay. Yeah, it is almost 50-50. It's a good question. It is 50-50. I think Steve would say Amazon 5 trillion first. But it just goes to show that long tech is the answer for all of us to make a lot of money in the coming 5 years. Like with everything happening, how can you not be long? This is why Burry's argument is just like it's of the moment. It's not really indicative. I mean, again, if you think it's a dot-com bubble, okay, but there is way too much evidence to be making the argument that this is all fake. Look at Broadcom grow, finally getting a bid, 376 on Mr. Broadcom. I think, let me pull up my retirement account. I'm going to name the prices that we got some of this up on the ceasefire day. So we're down on Palantir. We bought that at 145. Broadcom average is 345. We have 8 shares in that. NVIDIA, what did we get? Average is 182. We have 15 shares in that. And then Oracle, I think I'm down on Oracle. Oracle average is 150. We have 18 shares of that. AMD, oh, I forgot we got AMD as well. AMD, 228.27, 12 shares of that. Yeah, Broadcom, AMD, Oracle. I mean, all 3 of these together, if Anthropic's going to take everything, they should be green. We're down on Palantir, Robinhood on those retirement buys. This was the day the ceasefire was announced, the day after. So this was Wednesday when the ceasefire was announced. Meta, what price do we have here? Meta, we have 599, 5 shares of that. Then Google, 315. We have 8 shares of that. Dude, Robinhood should really build a freaking solo 401k platform. Like I'm using Carry, which is like, the only reason I'm using it is because it feels super user intuitive. Like, look at this. Look at the screen. It's not that special, but like, it's easy to look at versus Schwab and Fidelity. Robinhood should easily build something like this. TQQQ, is that moving as well? Have you made an AI agent yet? No. I have not made my own agent yet. I mean, kind of, but not like in a really like a sort of sophisticated way. TQQ up 1.5. That is something I should probably start experimenting with. Tanner said NVIDIA. I recommend doing it. I'm on week 3. What should I make an agent for? What's a simple thing I can make an agent for to get started? We should have an agentic word of the day, like something that automatically gives us a word of the day or something. What does that mean for AWS, robotics integration, margin expansion? Well, AWS is the only reason Amazon is really having any meaningful margin. So the e-com business is at like 5.7, and I think AWS is at like 37% operating margins. So I'm assuming the e-com business could go to 10 and AWS could get closer to like 42, 43. That gets you to like 20 overall. Wow, NVIDIA, are we doing 190? And that's, you know, where the margin enhancement comes from. But you're going to need robotics to get because you need to fire a lot of workers to get the robotics to increase the margins for e-com. 2 cents, baby. Give it to us. Give us 190. Give it to us, 189.95. 190 has 436,000 shares, bro. Okay. Someone's going to have to buy it. Come on. That's 1 penny. That's 1 freaking penny. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Iran's making a move right here. Nebius making a move. Dude, she's really not giving us that 1 penny. Oh my gosh, we're not getting that 1 penny. That 1 freaking penny. You can create an agent that automatically clips the most interesting parts of the market open, close, adds captions. So I have experimented with AI for clipping like content. it's not been the best. Like for basis points, I make my own clips because I used an AI to do it, and like it just didn't capture the right moments. And so I started just clipping it myself like I usually do. But maybe my prompt is not good enough to get it the right clip. Okay, Weeble says we touched 190, but I didn't see that. That was way too quick, bro. It disappeared on the order flow as well. So we did touch it, but I really did not see that. Yeah, you guys see it on Schwab. Okay, we technically touched it. It's not on the order flow anymore. Those 400,000 shares are gone, but that was the quickest 190. That's not a real 190. It'll be back though. If someone bought 400,000 shares, it'll be back. I think it should be back. Quicker than 2.5x. AI can't watch videos. I try to make an agent do it, but it's complicated. Yeah, Opus.pro is one of the tools that I've used before for like AI clipping, where I think it downloads the transcript of the video and then tries to interpret from the transcript what each person is saying in the podcast. But the clips, like they end on an awkward note. Like it's just like, you know, when you're clipping, you want those 2 minutes to be valuable, and sometimes it just doesn't look like that. AMD 249. AMD didn't touch 250 yet, but she's trying again. Broadcom 375. Yeah, 190 got hit. She tried at 190. But we got hit. Nebius as well as not giving us 150. It was 20 cents away. But it was close. You need to cut the clip always at the end of a statement or question. That's true. That probably would be a better thing to put into the prompt. Someone who is watching your stream right now had access to Trump. I mean, you know, you never know, right? Like, there was one time I was watching a video of someone who's like on Instagram. He has a lot of followers, and like in the background of his video, I heard my bell ring because he was watching the stream. It was like for like a millisecond, but I was like, damn, that's crazy that it made it into the video. So yeah, you never know sometimes who's watching the stream, but I think he got a call from either Teal or someone made the call. I don't think it was Karp. I don't think it was Sham. I don't know how much Teal is involved. Maybe, it had to be. I mean, Barron is not crazy to imagine that it was Barron, Triple V. It was somebody that, dude, Palantir is obviously very important to the government. So the government has an interest, just like they have an interest to keep NVIDIA up and buy Intel. I mean, look, as crazy as it is, it's also not as crazy. I mean, when Trump has Jensen at the White House and has Tesla at the White House with a car in the middle, like it's what Trump. I mean, Joe Biden went to. He was driving around a Ford around the White House back in 2024. Like, presidents aren't as explicit by putting the ticker symbol in their post, but they always have tried to elevate the companies that they are champions of, and Palantir is obviously a really important part of the government. But the ticker being in there means that someone asked him because the stock was struggling a lot today, which goes to show you how much like real momentum is behind Palantir in the broader market and how many people want that company to succeed. And you know, I didn't know that 5 years ago. I don't think any of us knew 5 years ago, oh, this is going to be a company that America really wants to win because of how important they are. Whether you politically agree with that or not is not the question of buying the stock. But when the stock was 20, 30 bucks, $6, $7, like there was a large force that inevitably was going to want Palantir to win. And, you know, so far they won. 189.69 on NVIDIA. Let's see if Palantir can get back up to 130. Yeah, it was probably Matt. It was probably our White House quant. Kushner's in Pakistan, dude. I don't think Kushner is the one who made a call during negotiations. Like maybe, but I feel like it was someone else. Is BMNR moving today? BMNR, they upped their buyback from $1 billion to $4 billion. So they will be buying back more stock, which might make more sense if ETH continues to be flat. ETH right there, 2241. 2241. Maybe Amit made the call in exchange for agreeing to negotiate the ceasefire. Look, I mean, I just couldn't believe it when I saw that tweet. I mean, you have a lot of money in a company. The president of the United States tweets the ticker. I mean, goodness, dude, it's one of those things where it's like, it's just incredible to witness something like that. Software though, still getting hits. Palantir 128. Citron tweeted again about AAOI. Dude, this guy is getting wrecked on the short. He's already down 20%. He said AAOI, the short thesis still holds. I don't think he realizes how intense retail is with this stock. As for trading, this large piece of art hangs on my wall in my office. Markets reward discipline, not emotion. Shorting demands patience, precision, humility, and most of all, risk control. Euphoria is temporary. Reality is not. No one said this was easy, despite what you read on X. This guy's crashing out. Shorting demands patience. Okay. I mean, look, I kind of agree with his thesis here. It's just, for anyone who's kept up with AAOI, it's literally a retail store. Like, retail will love to have an enemy to squeeze the shit out. I mean, this thing's going to go viral. Wall Street bets. Like, this thing could get pretty ugly for him if retail really catches on. And then if they actually start executing, get some more hyperscaler customers, you have some fundamentals come in. Amazon losing 240. We had it for a second, back down to 239. Robinhood still down 1. Trump preparing military if Iran fails to comply in talks, as per the New York Post. Okay. I really hope JD can get this ceasefire done for us. Trump says warships are being reloaded in case talks fail. And then you have the Iranian parliament speaker. He just tweeted as well. Have you been watching Breaking Bad again? What is Hyper Skylar? Dude, did you guys see freaking Bryan Cranston's Instagram post last night? It was great. He said 2 of the measures mutually agreed upon between the parties have yet to be implemented: a ceasefire in Lebanon and the release of Iran's blocked assets prior to the commencement of negotiations. These 2 matters must be fulfilled before negotiations begin. Okay, so it looks like negotiations haven't started, and Iran is saying you guys still have to include 2 parts of the deal before we negotiate. That's kind of what we heard in the morning, though. It's not necessarily bad news. That like new of news. Yeah, Bryan Cranston did a lip sync yesterday on Instagram to a popular song, and it was great because he put the mustache on from Breaking Bad, the beard and all that stuff. So, dude, his character was just, I think, top 5 iconic character in pop culture history. Top 5 iconic character in movies, music, TV, put all of it together in history. You got Bryan Cranston. I mean, that show, I don't even think that's a hyperbolic thing to say. Like, when it comes to characters, it's Walter White. 146 on Nebius. You're getting a little bit of a red candle right there. That's a valid take. Thank you. Thank you for providing me the validity of my take, because I think it is as well. We're going to find out in about 24 hours. We're going to know soon. Trump said in a phone interview when asked if he thought the talks would be successful. Wow. So that dude, Saturday, get ready for some volatility. Trump's probably going to be tweeting a ton of shit tomorrow. And if the deals are going well, then maybe futures are going to be crazy upside again, or if the talks go bad, then obviously it might not be the best thing to see. I tried to watch that show. I lasted less than the first episode. It's a little slow, but once you get through the first episode, you'll be okay. Bryan Cranston is Walter White. That's his real name. I thought you were quoting Bryan Cranston when you read that last tweet about the war. That does sound like him, low key. Low key. I'm so sick of this shit back and forth. I mean, look, this is what happens in a negotiation, right? They go back and forth, and hopefully we just end up on the positive side. We are seeing some red candles coming in. 11:30, Meta about to go red, Micron red, SanDisk red, Palo Alto continuing to fall. Rocket Lab at least at 68.30. Where is Palantir? We are 128.70. Palantir still holding on. If we can break through 130 would be amazing. Have you seen Malcolm in the Middle? Yes. That was also a really good role for him, but Breaking Bad was obviously just a different level. Zac Efron does not make the top 5. He might make my top 5, but he does not make the top 5. Trump dealing with people that we don't know whether or not they tell the truth to our face. They're getting rid of all nuclear weapons. Then they go out to press and say, we'd like to enrich. Okay, so this is the scary part about the negotiations. If we don't believe the Iranians are actually going to give up their enrichment, then I don't think they have anything to give the U.S. in terms of compromising, which means we're back to square one. And maybe we do get military actions involved. I just personally think Trump really doesn't want to do that. He's been looking for an off-ramp for weeks. He finally got it. If he can even get them to give up some of their enrichment, not a full-scale process of denuclearizing, then that'll still be enough of a victory. But if Trump gets stubborn and he's like, no, I want literally every single part of your nuclear program to go away, and they say no, and he's like, all right, we don't have a deal. And they're like, all right, cool. The strait's going to still be closed. Like, we're right back to square one. It's going to be very, I don't think that happens. Like, I really don't. I think we're too far deep for that to happen. But if it does, I feel like this will be ugly again. I have watched Mean Girls. Okay. I'm not that uncultured. I've seen Mean Girls. What's the Indian guy? Is his name Kevin? I think. I know Lindsay Lohan's in it. My sister forced me to watch this like 20 years ago, but I've seen it many times after that. Dude, 20 years ago is 2006. I was 10 years old, 9 years old, 2006. Like my high school reunion is this year. It's 10 years, 2026, 2016. COVID was 6 years ago. Like, it is crazy how much like time passes. And it's just not stopping for anybody. $188.81 on NVIDIA. 3 movies I recommend: Mean Girls, Easy A, Legally Blonde. Okay. You're trolling very effectively, Tanner. It's very effective trolling. By the way, Tanner, I heard you didn't get your sleep score the other day. Steve was telling me you were upset about it. I aspire to have Tanner's consistency on his sleep score. One day I will eventually get to the point where I can do that. Not there yet. I think I slept at like 2 a.m. last night, but eventually I will get there. 680 S&P. S&P potentially might go red right here. Amid realizing he's getting old. Dude, I've been saying I've been old for the past 2 years. I will be 30 in a couple years, bro. Less than a couple years. Which is not old. I get it. 30 is not old. But like the point is, it's older. Like 10 years from 30, 40 is like, you're just, it's like you're there. I feel like once you get past 25, you're not really a kid anymore. 23, 24, it's whatever. Once you start seeing 26, 27, latter part of your 20s, it's like, all right, you got to get ready for the real world. That's why we got to enjoy every day. It's why you got to make every day count. When is Artemis 2 coming back? I've been like getting obsessed with their story, bro. I didn't even know what Artemis was. And over the past couple of days, it's just so freaking cool to see what they've done. I want to see when they come back. By the way, did you guys know, if I can even pull it up, that there's an asteroid in 2024 that potentially could hit our moon? And that's part of the reason that we're going to the moon. As like, there's a lot of reasons we're going, but we're trying to get a lot more data about what's going to happen to the moon in the next 10 years. 6 p.m. tonight. Okay, cool. So during the market close, we'll be able to see. There's a great YouTube short about this yesterday. I was like, oh shit, going to the moon is like really important. Like we gotta know about this stuff if it happens.
Asteroid might hit the moon, and we might have to nuke it before it does. I'm serious. So earlier this year, we thought that this asteroid might hit Earth. Good news, it won't. Bad news, it might now hit the moon, which is very bad news because this asteroid is the size of a 15-story building. And estimates say that an impact with the moon could cause a big cloud of debris around Earth. So NASA just came out with a real proposal for what we could do if a lunar impact becomes more likely. Option 1, we could smash a spacecraft into it, hoping to nudge it off its course. The problem is we only have 7 years, and for this to work, the nudge has to be done far enough in advance that it misses the moon. And you really don't want to nudge it into Earth. So NASA says that deflecting this one seems impractical. Option 2, we blow it apart. They call this robust disruption. We don't exactly know how big or how dense this asteroid is, so based on our estimates, NASA suggests that we use a 1 megaton bomb. And that looks like a very serious best option right now. The next time we'll see this asteroid will be in February with the James Webb Space Telescope, and that'll refine our estimate, but not confirm it. But in 2028, when we get a better look with our Earth-based telescopes, then we'll decide what to do.
It's crazy, right? Like, part of the reason we're doing this Artemis thing is because we need a lot of data on what could happen. And by the way, for the people saying this is just fear-mongering, there was a meteor that hit Russia. This was in 2013. Now, thankfully, this meteor wasn't like that aggressive, but it did hit Russia, and there was an impact that was felt across like, I think 10 miles of where it hit. Like, imagine if the size of the Empire State Building in a meteor or an asteroid just like hit the Earth. Like I don't think that would be a good thing. Like, our portfolios would definitely go down that day. Maybe like Rocket Lab would go up, but it would be bad. And so the very nature of understanding our mortality could be determined, like wide-scale extinction from an asteroid. And the fact that we have some technology to potentially hedge against that because we can see, the stuff happening before it happens is quite incredible. And yeah, probably another reason SpaceX deserves its valuation, because I would imagine SpaceX is going to be really relevant. This shit goes down. Bro is still worried about the portfolio when the asteroid. Dude, when the asteroid hits, market's going to be down at least 10%. Maybe a little bit more, but it'd be bad. Obviously, I'm joking, right? Like, we'd all die, so it's like that. Forget the portfolio, but yeah, we kind of need to use our tech to hedge against that. And that's what the rumor is for. Well, not. I mean, is it a rumor? Is it scientific? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of science to support it, but the argument is the way the dinosaurs died is because of an asteroid. If that happens billions of years later for a new civilization, maybe we can stop it from happening with more of this tech. 2034 asteroid is already priced in today. Yeah, how does the market price that in? That's a good question. Palantir will save us. Dude, I cannot believe Trump tweeted that. What was your guys' first reaction when you saw that? I mean, you guys saw my reaction. What, like, this is By the way, we're seeing some red candles. We're going back down, at least intraday at the moment. Like, I kind of did believe it because it's Trump, and he posted a picture of himself with a offshore illegal Australian casino logo. If he's willing to do that, I mean, he'd definitely be willing to post something like this. But it was also kind of surreal to actually see that. It's so Trump, but it's still so crazy. It woke me up. Yeah, that'll get you out of bed, bro. That'll get you out of freaking bed. Are you referring to steak? Yes. Tanner, you saw the picture, right? He posted a picture of him and Dana White with the steak logo. Like, if he's willing to pump some stupid online crypto Australian casino, it's like, if you're going to pump stuff, you might as well pump something that matters. Yeah, if he was willing to pump a meme coin, dude, at least pump the company that's actually doing something for the world. So it wasn't that crazy, but it still was kind of like, oh my goodness, that's wild. 146 on Nebesis. What are people doing here with Nebius? Are you selling calls here? Are you selling stock? I think I'm going to sell those 200s, bro. Those 200s can't be a bad deal. May 15th, 200. If it goes to 200 May 15th, I mean, like, it is what it is, right? Like, that can't be. There's no way I get underwater on that. Part of the reason I don't have covered calls on my Nebula shares is because I already sold half the position. So the other half, I didn't want to cap the upside. So I left it. And thankfully it worked, at least for now. But I feel like I'm being a little too greedy by not selling some covered calls here. Unless this thing wants to ramp up to 175. Sold 70% of my Nebius. Will buy back on a pullback. It has crazy swings. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of people here saying they took some profits. Holding till 150. I'm crying about my 120s. You're going to have to go out a couple months, but let's do a live example of that because I know a lot of people are struggling with this. So let's do a live example. Let's say today you have a 120 call, okay? 120 today on Nebius is let's do April 17th. Let's go at a week out. That'll make it a little bit easier to understand. Okay, so 120 on April 17th, which is still up a lot, is up 50% today. It's at $26. Okay, $26. So let's say you sold this call when Nebius was, this is 120. Let's say you sold this call when Nebius was 100. When Nebius was 100 for today, April 17th, you got, if I'm looking at this correctly, today it's worth 26. Okay, so Nebius, what was Nebius on April 1st? Let's look at the stock price. On April 1st, Nebius was 5 days, April 1st. Oh, perfect. Nebius was 101 on April 1st. Perfect. Okay, so on April 1st, this contract gave you premium of $2.18. Now it's trading for $26.83. So you need to, so your difference right here is 24. You need to cover $24 by rolling, which means you would have to go out. I mean, you're going to have to go out pretty far, but you can cover 24 by going out to around July 17th and sell the 150. That's trading at 25 right now. You'd make $1. Now, if it goes above 150 by July 17th, it is what it is. You're not eligible for that, but at least you get $30 of upside, right? Because 150 minus 120 is 130. And if it doesn't go to 150 by then and it stays stuck at like 135, that'll be okay. You can go to November 20th and you can go up to 175 and you would still make, that's $30 right now. You would still make $5 a share. Obviously you would have 7 months added to your timeline, But you get an exit at 175. Is that so bad, right? If you think it's still going up. So these are still kind of manageable. But you also have to be reasonable about how long do you think it'll play out for. Damien says, I sold 1,500 shares. Yeah, I know a lot of people yesterday said they took some profits here, which is not crazy. I mean, the thing ran up from 90 to 120. So I get it. Hollis says, if we could text Trump for just one day to get info before he posts, we'd be set for life. We need the it's good to buy signal from him. And I think it is coming next week if we get a deal. I don't know if he'll say it like that, but he's going to say something. The fact that he's basically told you to buy Palantir today, he's going to tell you to buy the market in some way. Maybe he's going to be super explicit, or maybe he's going to be more low-key about it. But if we get a deal, he will issue that signal, and the markets are going to pump. I don't know how big of a pump it's going to be, given April we were down 30%, so there was a different, type of pump that took place. But it will happen if we get the deal. We just need to get the deal. By the way, do you guys remember April 9th? This is what it looked like. This was April 9th last year. It's one of the best days in stock market history. 9% on the S&P, 12% on the NASDAQ, 7% on the Dow Jones in a day. In a freaking day. Isn't Drake big on stake? Yes, he is. That's the one thing I hate about Drake. Drake is so rich and he accepts sponsorships from these stupid, illegal casino gambling websites. But they probably have paid him like $1 billion to promote the company. That's how I know about them, through Drake. But I'm just like, dude, he's too rich to be doing that shit. Then again, it's $1 billion. That speaks. Yeah, NVIDIA was up 18% that day. I just remember, I think I was just laying down, depressed, like everyone else, that we had eliminated 2 years of gains in the stock market. And then I just look at my phone and I see a candle. I'm like, oh, and it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going. And I'm like, oh my goodness. But I think that was actually my biggest tweet ever. My biggest tweet ever was that. Let me pull it up. I'm gonna ask Grok. Grok's actually really good for going back into your old tweets. I think this was my largest tweet ever that no one could believe what had just happened that day. But it did happen. Celsius, are you getting hit today? Celsius. Ooh, why is Celsius down 4? I guess the Kirkland Energies. Dude, a lot of you guys saying Nebius will dip again. Don't worry. A lot of skeptics here on this run, which I get it. It's up 20% in 2 days. That's also why the premiums are so good, because the volatility to the downside is what people love about these high-flying stocks, is that they go up and down like crazy. I mean, to be fair, there's also not a real reason why Nebius is up 20. I mean, there hasn't been anything fundamental that's changed, right? I know they're trying to acquire some company in Israel or something like that, but like they didn't get a massive new deal. So it is very, I don't know, it just feels like very momentum driven, but maybe if they follow it up with something really new, then they also had that Finland data center thing. I don't know if that's enough for a 20% move in 2 days. But CoreWeave as well, still 14% up. Well, wasn't your biggest tweet one that Elon interacted with? So that's with impressions, yeah. But the most liked one, I think this was like 100,000 likes, was when I said, dude, Grok sucks. Freaking, it showed me this the other day. It's not showing it now. But it was like, what timeline is this? Oh, I remember. What timeline is this? That was, oh, there it is. I found it. See, Google, this is why you go long Google. Google found this before Grok, and Grok paid $40 billion for X. That is ridiculous. That's absolutely insane that Google found this before Grok did. Bro, he literally told us good time to buy before he pumped the entire market. What timeline is this? got 113,000 likes. People could not believe what had happened. That was at 1:33, April 9th, 2025. Is Meta getting hit? Meta goes red. Weird. Is that just intraday or do we have some Meta news? 625. What about Google? Did Google lose some steam? Google also going red. Yeah, the ClickHouse valuation increase obviously could also be a catalyst for that expansion. SPY just went red. Oh, wow. Guess 12 p.m. reversal. NVIDIA at least holding on. Where's Palantir in the midst of this? Palantir losing 128, but it's better than where it was before. Is IGV still getting hit? IGV still down 3% today. I took a screenshot of that day to remind myself to buy when things are bleeding red in the future. Yeah, and obviously that has been a good lesson for retail. No, we don't have any headlines, guys. Just these New York Post tweets by Trump, or quotes by Trump. Breaking. Anthropic Vibe coded half of the S&P 500 companies in the last 5 minutes. There you go. This is not the time to be greedy. Look, I think a lot of it depends on these negotiations. And I just, in the back of my mind, I do not think Trump wants to get back into war. Like, he's been looking for an off-ramp for a month. He never thought it would last this long. There's no one that can convince me that Trump is okay with seeing oil prices go up and people getting upset. And I mean, dude, last night when he tweeted about Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens and all the shit about like they're horrible podcasters, yada, yada, because they turned on him. The amount of replies on Truth Social that were going against him. I mean, you had thousands of replies saying, I used to support you. I don't support you anymore, yada, yada. And to me, that was just like, wow. It is a significant cohort of his base. Now, there's probably a lot of people that did support him as well, and they were happy that he said all this bad stuff about Tucker Carlson. So I get it, but you do have a lot of people that, you know, living paycheck to paycheck, seeing their 401ks get hit, not sure why we're in this war in the first place. You can't tell me that Trump wants to go back to that sentiment after these 2 weeks. There's no way. There's no freaking way. Which means I think he's going to do whatever he can to get a deal done. I don't know if it's going to pump the markets. I think it will have a chance to pump the markets, but I don't think we're going back. And the Melania thing was weird yesterday, dude. That thing was very confusing. She came out yesterday and said she doesn't know who Epstein is. She's never had contact with Epstein. It was like this impromptu press conference about her trying to clear her name from Epstein. And then Trump was asked about it. He was like, I didn't know she was going to do that. And that news, that story kind of got swept under the rug. We're not talking about it too much, but it was really weird how that randomly, and it seems like she's front running a story that might be coming out soon. That's the only reason you could explain why it might be happening. Red candles coming in. I don't see a headline, but it is a Friday. Friday is when you tend to see a little bit of pain just going into the weekend. At least Oracle holding up. NVIDIA, we get a close above 185. That'd still be nice. You're seeing this with him as well as his approach to China. Defense had released the biggest risk being China, and he told them to go back to the drawing board with it. He wants to make deals. Yeah, this guy is not a guy who's trying to cause World War III, in my opinion. He wants to get a deal done. I think he realizes he might have made too big of a mistake going into Iran because he didn't realize how powerful their sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz was. And, you know, he probably wanted to get out of it, and it just took way longer than expected. And now this is the chance to get out of it. But you can't come out looking like you got nothing from the deal. So he's going to have to try to figure something out right here. Why are you assuming Trump is rational? So there are many moments where Trump is irrational, but when it comes to the final point of the climax in a conflict, the only thing we can use is the historical evidence we've seen of how Trump capitulates. And every single time he doesn't go all the way, whether it's tariffs, whether it's Greenland, trade war, like he finds a way to walk it back to some extent because like it's that whole chaotic destruction that he loves to engage in. And I mean, it did work for the tariffs. He was getting a lot of good deals. It's just the Supreme Court kind of overturned it. And so that's why he was so pissed off about that. With Greenland, I don't know what we got out of the Greenland thing. I really have no idea what the point of that was. I still don't know what deal we made to not invade Greenland. But the point is he doesn't like going all the way. And I think this time is not going to be that different. But I guess we'll find out over the coming days. All right, I think that's it. I think we're done. I think we're done for the day. How is it 12 o'clock, dude? 12 freaking o'clock. Let's take a little bit of a look of how CNBC is reacting to all this, and then we'll get out of here. But we are still, trying to flip green for the 5th day in a row if we end up getting it today.
You see this as a sign that we've already seen the bottom in the markets. They'll at least have steadier ground going forward.
Well, the correlation between whether we've seen the bottom or not ties to whether we've seen the peak in hostilities. And this week, the belief is, after Tuesday, that we have seen the peak in hostilities, but there is still doubt, and those doubts are understandable with the Strait of Hormuz still closed. Last I saw, something like a dozen ships have transited in the last day or so, which is not a lot. And with Iran extracting tolls, that's eventually going to get, I think, enough under the president's skin that he's liable to pick up hostilities again. Now, that doesn't mean we have to go back to the bottom of a couple of weeks ago. As long as we're not putting out their rhetoric about ending civilization and things like that, then the bottom is in. So I'm not, the problem with the question is nobody really knows, Frank, right? There's just no way to know if the end of hostilities, or rather the peak of hostilities, is in place. If it is, the bottom's in. Now, we can expect volatility, and there will be flare-ups, Lebanon, Karg Island, whatever. But if we've seen the peak, then we are going higher through the rest of the year.
So, Brent, I want to bring that same question over to you. Also, I want to add to it. Have we perhaps seen too much of a rally over these last 7 days? Again, the S&P pulling back a bit, but the NASDAQ on pace.
All right. That's what we got. Same kind of argument here. Oil and the negotiations will dictate if we end up breaking out of this slump we've been in for the past couple months, and this week has already shown some price action to at least get a little bit more momentum. Michelle said, I just had Jack in the Box. Dude, I haven't had Jack in the Box in I don't know how many years. There's not a lot in the Northeast. It's like a Texas thing, right? Jack in the Box? Or West Coast? But there's not that many in Northeast. Yeah, we will have a market close. When I mean done for the day, I mean to say done for the market open, but we will have a market close. Let's do word of the day. Also, we released a podcast yesterday on basis points. You guys can check that out. It is with Shannon Shikosha, who is absolutely incredible. She is honestly just one of the smartest finance media people that I've been able to listen to. So there it is right there. I'll link the channel. You guys can check it out. But she was awesome. And we did a new setup for the podcast. The two constructive pieces of criticism I will take away from this is I touched the microphone too much. I don't know why I did. I guess I don't even know where I'm going to. I'm not going anywhere with that statement because you guys can go wherever you want. But Steve had a good argument. He said this is the first time we had the laptop on the show. So the laptop kind of made me a little uncomfortable. So that's why I had to touch the mic to move it back and forth. I don't even want to know what you guys will think about that. But the other constructive piece of criticism was I shake my legs too much on the on the last setup, you guys couldn't really see my legs. This time my legs are exposed. And I'm shaking my legs right now. Like it's one of those things where I shake my legs. I will have to try to adjust it because I mean, I get it. It is distracting. Like that's fair. It's distracting. But I don't know. That's just how I am. I shake my legs. So I will try to hopefully not do that. I'm gonna get a fidget spinner. Maybe that's gonna calm down my legs here. Okay, what is word of the day? What is word of the day? Yes, ChatGPT for just a new word. This is a boring one. They gave me egregious. We already know what that means. Another one. Let's make it cooler than this. Do you shave your legs or shake? No, I don't shave my legs. Do you guys remember the story I told you guys when I was in 3rd grade and I told my mom I wanted to shave my arms because my genetics gave me very hairy arms in 3rd grade? My mom looked me dead in the face, dude. I'll never forget this. She said, "Stop being a bitch." And ever since then, I've embraced my hairy arms. Because I was in the 3rd grade with hairy arms, bro. I was like, dude, the other kids don't have hairy arms. Like, I was like, am I Chewbacca in the 3rd grade or something? She was like, "Stop being a bitch." I was like, all right, fine. I literally asked her to buy me a shaver. She's like, "I'm not buying you a shaver." She's like, "This is who you are. Deal with it." I was like, all right. Did what I had to do. Axiomatic, which I actually know what this word means. This is a good word. Self-evident, universally accepted as true without needing proof. It's an axiomatic that risk comes before return. Ignore that and nothing else matters. This comes from the word axiom, which is kind of like this a priori assumed truth in the world. It's actually a really good word. I've used it many times. Yeah, it's like a Freudian word. Or it feels like one of those philosophical words. Okay, that is what we got. That is what we got for the day. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We upload the episodes to Spotify. We uploaded the first 2. I will upload the next 2 on Spotify for all the audio listeners. So, yes, we'll upload that soon. And then we have the next episode already recorded. That'll be out next week. I think you guys will like that as well. And, yeah, we will keep going. So, market close today. I don't think there's anything too crazy we have to worry about. Let's see if Palantir can continue that rebound from the Trump tweet. I mean, I don't think we're going to go crazy green because the negotiations are just starting, and so we don't know how that's going to play out. But if we can kind of end green, that would be nice. And maybe we'll see. We'll see if that happens later today. All right, I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We'll be back on the close. And yeah, where are we at? Right as we ended off, S&P 679. Not that crazy. Been a good week. Hopefully we hold up there. We'll see where it plays out towards the end of the day. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the market close. If I don't see you, I will see you on Sunday for the future show. If not, have a great weekend. Again, love you all. Appreciate everyone joining every single day. Truly means the world. Deeply, deeply, deeply blessed. Chicago meetup. I will link that again right here. That is happening May 9th. So happy to see anyone who comes through. But yeah, it has been a volatile market. We will navigate it every single day, and we're getting finally a little bit of relief. And hopefully that continues. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see everyone on the market close. Bye, everybody.